Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome. We're happy to have all of you here tonight. Just as a quick note, we've got a kind of full agenda tonight, and if things get running long, I'll slip in a recess at some point around 9 for about 10 minutes. It'll be a quick one, but I will give you a chance to stand up and stretch your legs if it looks like we're going to go much beyond that. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Wendell Elementary School student Lily Johnson. Lily, can you come up to the podium? Lily is a shining example of what it means to be a leader in our classroom. She is incredibly hardworking, responsible, and honest, and she approaches every challenge with determination and perseverance. Lily's kindness and caring heart shine through in everything she does. She is quick to encourage a friend, offer help to a classmate, or lend support to her teachers. She participates eagerly, brings a positive attitude with her every day, and makes our classroom a better place just by being in it. That's so very nice. We're very proud of you, Lily, and thank you for being here tonight to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lily. Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Ed Keegan from St. Eugene's Catholic Church.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being with us.
It's my honor to lead you in prayer. Lord, grant that we may always allow ourselves to be guided by you, always follow your plans, and perfectly accomplish your holy will. Grant that in all things, great and small, today and all days of our lives, we may do whatever you require of us. Help us respond to the slightest promptings of your grace so that we may be your trustworthy instruments for your honor. May your will be done. Amen. Now, just before I go, I just wanted to remind everybody that the Wendell Council of Churches will be sponsoring a Thanksgiving concert on Sunday, November 23rd at 7 p.m. at Covenant Presbyterian Church on Selma Road. It's free, and all are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, we'll move into our public comment period. As my general reminder that the public can participate in public comment by signing up at the door the night of when you come in, and you have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk as long as they're received by 5 p.m. on the Friday before the board meeting the next week. They will be read into the record for the length of 3 minutes. And we have tonight, I believe, 4 people signed up, and the first is Yvonne Stanley. You can watch the lights right here, and that'll kind of help you gauge your timing.
What?
If you look at the lights right here, it'll help you gauge your timing.
Okay. My name is Yvonne Stanley. I live in Goldsboro, and I'm concerned in reference to the property out at Eagle Rock. They're developing out there. They're developing and doing all this building, yet the road is not adequate. I was just out there tonight, and it's a nightmare. Somebody's going to get killed, and the speed limit, I believe, was 45 most of the way. Now, before you start building houses anymore out there, somebody needs to look at the roads and get the road situation straight. And the speed limit could be down further. I wished every one of y'all would just take it upon yourself to go out there about 5 o'clock or any time during the day I've got a piece of property out there. I can't get in and out. A car literally had to stop so that I could get off of Eagle Rock Nightdale Road. Now, I don't know what you're thinking about building more houses. And some of them little houses out there, the children don't have no place to play. Where are they supposed to play? It's a disaster. Now, the one people that I talked with that's next to the railroad track, they said the houses are going to be bigger and they're not going to be cracker boxes like them other ones out there. Now, don't y'all have some regulations when you start building that you got to have adequate roads to get in and to get out? Y'all are just taking over Eagle Rock, and it's a little community town. And it ain't right. Are you gonna annex that land out there too?
Public comment isn't an opportunity for back and
Y'all
forth
can't say nothing.
conversations, so,
Y'all can't.
no ma'am, but what you can do is I can recommend to you that you talk to our planning director or our town manager, and they can discuss
Well, if
with
it's
you.
like our planning department down where I come from, it's a waste of my time, so I thank you. But you need to do something about the traffic,
Well, our planning department's great. So,
okay?
yes, ma'am. All right, the next one is Anthony Benjamin.
Good evening. How you doing? My name is Anthony Benjamin. I live at 256 Long Deer Drive in Wendell. I'm coming to you again, the board again, about this matter regarding the cannabis dispensary that's being built across the street from Wendell Elementary. As I spoke about it, the building is being still built and, stuff is coming in, is being cleared out. I remember back in the days where we had no for drug campaigns. And now it's very disturbing that we're allowing this to go up right across the street from an elementary school where they can look out the window and see this type of environment. Once again, I'm not saying no to the building. It could be downtown Wendell. It doesn't have to be across the street from a school. Our kids are our future. They're going to go through a lot of temptation once they move from elementary school to middle school, and once they move on to high school. So right now we're normalizing a situation where we're like, well, it's okay to see that right across the street. We're fine with it. I brought my 2 kids here tonight. It's really troubling that we're allowing this to go on. I'm just voicing my opinion because I'm not going to say you guys are not doing anything. I don't know. A lot of the public is not aware of what's going on downtown. There's a little sign on it that says cannabis dispensary. We have a tobacco shop that's right down the street. That's down the street, far enough from the school. But once again, what are we going to tell our children when they get to middle school and they see all of these things and we're saying yes to this building? We have to say no because our kids, they learn enough from social media. But we're still going to poison their mind by having this right outside the school. And I'm urging you guys, I'm pleading with you guys. Madam Mayor, I'm pleading with you. Please don't let this happen in our community. This is our community, and we need to protect it from certain things. And we can only do that with the elected officials that's in service right now. So once again, you'll see me again and again and again and again until we figure out how to stop this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jan Parker.
Real quick, before Mr. Benjamin leaves, would staff mind? I know that,
Get an answer to Mr. Benjamin's questions. It's the second time at a meeting, and the question has some false premises in it that I don't think are intentional on his part, but they're cannabis laws. This is a gray space that's been created by the North Carolina General Assembly, and our ability to regulate places is not as direct as you're describing it. There's nothing we can do legally about cannabis, but I want to get you connected with staff. I don't want you to go to another meeting without getting an answer, so if we could have staff.
and I was just briefly, I mean, I'm sure they've seen it, but there's some pretty extensive sort of public or professional conversation that happens around questions like this, sort of on emergent issues. And this one, it was not Wendell focused, but from another town, literally was sort of planners from around the state were discussing just today. So we do hear you, I think is the point.
Ms. Parker?
Jan Parker, 6317 Weathers Road, Wendell. And I am here I've been here several times in the past couple of years, and I'm speaking again about the Weathers Landing, now known as the Haven of Wendell. And my reason for wanting to come tonight and speak was to let you know that at the suggestion of Lenore Holmes, we have hired an engineer to help us to represent our concerns about the runoff and the stormwater and impact that seems to be unavoidable with the proposed development. And our engineer had sent a letter, and I believe most of you received that, knowing that we were working with Lenore. And they did respond to the letter. It's been about a month now. And so we were supposed to meet, and Lenore had to cancel it because they said something came up. And I know that I might not have this right, but I thought that tonight that you might be voting on a date for that hearing, public hearing, or that it was mentioned on the agenda. And I just wanted you to know that we still have some things to resolve and hope to work with them. I believe next week they have a date set, and if it doesn't get canceled, then we would be able to, it might be helpful not to rush into this because we really won't. It's just not a personal, selfish concern for our farm. It's also for the Robertson Mill Pond and the nature that it just doesn't look like a good way that it can be avoided. So I just wanted you to see me, hear me once again say that I still have those concerns and I still have hope. I'm not giving up that we can work out something that's going to be better than what we heard last time. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Jim Parker?
All in hardy. Hey, I'm Jim Parker, 6317 Weathers Road, Wendell. And I'm here tonight I really need a explanation, since I'm not much on reading these legal terms, but it seems to me that on the 3A, the resolution fixing the date of a public hearing for a non-contiguous annexation. And if that is the case, where you're planning to fix a date for that tonight, I wanted to ask y'all not to, because we have been trying to set a meeting with Lenore, my engineer, myself, my family, to come to some type of conclusion of what's going to be the best way to get rid of all this storm water and everything that's going to be flowing down through us onto Robertson Mill Pond. I'm hoping that we'll be able to come to, some kind of resolution and get all this taken care of. But since our meeting been put off until this coming Wednesday, if y'all were supposed to set a date tonight for that, I would ask you to put that off until a later date, if you would. till we can have a chance to have our meeting and make sure that everybody's on the same page with the stormwater and the runoff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we need to discuss the consent agenda? And just move forward with the consent agenda? Mr. Cawley, what are y'all's,
Wouldn't that be responding to public comment?
well, you just responded to public comment.
Understand
Got it
that.
and walked out of the room.
Broadly,
I know, but I didn't know if it was a unique situation, and I didn't know if we were setting ourselves up to have something be on and then come on and off and on and off. I also I don't know what the status is of the parties that are in all this, if I'm hearing
Madam Mayor,
one
like we're
side
hearing
of it.
from-
Madam Mayor, if the meeting takes place on Wednesday, Mr. Parker, wouldn't that proceed? If the meeting takes place next Wednesday, that would be before our next meeting. Thus, you'd have that opportunity to be heard. If it does not, let us know.
Just for the mayor's question of procedurally, what you would do.
That's what I wanted to know.
When you get to the consent agenda, if the board wants to remove an item from consent, it can be placed later in the agenda and taken up at that time and discussed and acted on like a normal
Agenda item,
item.
yeah.
If the board does not want to do that, then it can remain on the consent agenda and be voted.
Okay,
That particular item sets a public hearing for your next meeting, November 24th, 7 p.m. here. And that is to comply with the statutory requirements for annexation.
mhm.
And then the rehearing would also be that date for that development.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
so moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Let's move into our recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is a recognition of Wendell Elementary School teacher Brooke Zapeta. Brooke is an outstanding teacher and coworker. She prioritizes her students' well-being and education and navigates them through their challenges with compassion and persistence. She is always helping her team in any way that she can. Our special education team has blossomed since she joined us, and we are so grateful to have her here at Wendell Elementary. We just wanted to have you here and thank you for everything that you do for our kids in Wendell and recognize you for all of those efforts. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're
Please
welcome.
come to the school anytime. We're always an open door. The kids love to see people in the community and even at our events
Yep.
and things. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 4B is the fiscal year 2025 audit presentation. Want to hear from Ms. Klepchik?
All right,
Good evening.
thank you. The town of Wendell has contracted with Thompson Price Scott Adams to conduct the town's annual external audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. Due to the federal government shutdown, the United States Office of Management and Budget has not finalized its 2025 supplement for federal single audits. At the advisement of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and at the direction of the Local Government Commission, annual audits should not be submitted for LGC review until OMB has issued the final version of the 2025 supplement. As prescribed by the standardized LGC 205 contract to audit accounts, the auditor shall present the audited financial statements, including any compliance reports, to the government unit's governing body or audit committee in an official meeting in an open session as soon as the audited financial statements are available, but not later than 45 days after the submission of the audit report to the secretary. In addition to presenting to the Board of Commissioners and Mayor as a complete governing body, the auditor will present to the audit committee consisting of the mayor, mayor pro tem, town attorney, town manager, and finance director immediately prior to the regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. Tonight, I have Alan Thompson of Thompson Price Scott Adams with me to present the audit results to you.
Thank you. All right, well, good evening, everyone. We'll get to the right spot, I pray. So if you would be kind enough to flip over to page 1 of the presentation summary, which you should have there in front of you. The main thing you do, hire us as an independent audit firm to do is issue an opinion on the financial statements as a whole. We issue an unmodified report, which is a quote-unquote clean report or a good report. On that page 1, in that our responsibility in relationship to the financial statement audit, the main thing you should take out of those 3 paragraphs is that we're trying to issue a set of financial statements that are materially correct and not absolutely correct. So we're not trying to find $10 here, we're trying to issue them materially correct. Under significant risk identified, as I mentioned in the audit committee meeting, these 2 items, management override of controls and improper revenue recognition, are on all our audits. We design our tests to ensure that those items are not part of anything that's going on. So we make sure with a 5-day test on the revenue recognition that we get everything in the correct periods. We check out travel, credit cards, budget to actual other items to try to make sure there's no management overrides in place. And I'm not sure how I'm following on this, but we'll get there. In terms of significant audit policies, we discussed in the audit committee, something about sick leave pay. It's a 101 statement. It's new. Not sure it has an impact overall because it's recorded as a liability in the financial statements. And it's really trying to estimate what the potential amount of sick leave that will be used and not actually turned into the state for retirement purposes. So there's a big calculation to go into that to hopefully we get that correct. That significant accounting estimates is part of that 101 issue. And we had no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements. There was no disagreements with management. We're unaware that management consulted the outside accountants, auditors, et cetera. Management did provide us with a representation letter dated October 31st. And I'm running through my things quicker than I'm clicking on them, I'm sorry. Again, the only real issues here, there was 2 items that we discussed in the audit committee meeting. One had to do with the timing of the bond, which is in place now. It got in place as of July, so everybody's in compliance with that. And the other was a note that was understated in last year's financial statements, which has been put on the financial statements to make it correct as well. And if you would be kind enough to flip over to page 5. And you can see on page 5, total fund balance there in your general fund, $16,024,000. If you go back to 21, that's $7.5 million. The growth is obviously substantial. The unavailable fund balance at $3.4 million. Restricted and committed at 3.7. Total general fund expenditures is 21.8. We talked about in the general fund expenditures, which we'll look at in a second, there's a big item called capital outlay, which is where there's been projects running through, but you adopted your budget this year to pull those out on capital project ordinances, which will have an impact on comparing total general fund expenditures going forward and better present your general fund overall. You can see fund balance available as a percentage is 57.67, unassigned fund balance 12.2, and then unassigned as a percentage 56.22. Those percentages will change and level out going forward when those capital projects are pulled out. Revenues over and under expenses before contributions, transfers, and general fund has a negative 6.1. That's due to some of these projects we're talking about when they're putting the project ordinance in the loan. Is not being recognized in the general fund as a revenue. It'll level some of that out and make it a whole lot easier to follow what's really happening in your general fund. You can see cash there at 18.7, fund balance again at 16. And you see your property tax rates, collection percentage, which is really good. It's 99.48, 99% or above for the whole 5 years presented. And then total valuation, $2.9 billion, total levy amounts 12.2. And then you see your debt there at 19.1 in governmental activities. Breakdown of your general fund revenues, the total is $24.4 million. You can see the largest one there being ad valorem taxes. And a breakdown of your general fund expenditures at 30.6 million in total. If you go up a couple lines from that, you see that capital outlay amount, that 10.2, which is the number I'm referring to there. You see analysis there of your fund balance, total fund balance, and that's more of a purple color, and a red is your restricted amount. There's your percentage in this chart, total general fund as a percentage, your total expenditures as a percentage, it's 57.67. And then the unassigned fund balance at 56.22. And this is where I'm saying the projects are distorting, because you can see it looks like a loss for the last 3 years, and that's all due to the projects. Then the property tax rates compared to the group weighted average. And then the collection percentage compared to both the group weighted average and the statewide average. You see a breakdown of your general fund revenue there at ad valorem taxes making up 56.52%. And then here, the breakdown of general fund expenditures, and as we discussed in the audit committee, when that capital outlay amount there, 33.35% is pulled out, it's going to change the percentages of everything, which will have an impact. We talked about the 65,000 restatement, and then the bond is in place as of now. Very happy to answer your questions. Appreciate you allowing our firm to do the audit. Overall, things look good, and you can call and ask a firm or me any question, anytime. Happy to take your call. If I'm not there, tell them to give you my cell number. Do my best to get you an answer to your question.
Any questions from the board? All right.
Thanks a
Thank you very
lot.
much.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
We're going to move into our Section 5, our public hearings now. Item 5A is a public hearing for a contiguous annexation of approximately 1.50 acres, PIN number 1784546573, located at 962 Marshburn Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members. This first public hearing before you tonight is for an annexation of roughly 1.5 acres located at 962 Marshburn Road. Town limits are directly to the south and the west, and then ETJ to the east and north. The current property owner is requesting access to municipal water and sewer, which requires annexation. The property is currently zoned rural agricultural. RA zoning contains a single-family house. No rezoning is needed. They're just planning to hook the existing home up to water and sewer. I can field any questions you have at this time.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board? All right. Does the applicant wish to be heard?
Not that I'm aware of
Okay,
from
just
staff
giving them a
conversations. They
chance.
were not
Okay.
planning to attend.
Okay. Are there any citizens here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition? All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the proposed annexation and adopt the attached ordinance.
We have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and adopt the ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. All right. Item 5B is a public hearing for a contiguous annexation of approximately 120.4 acres, PIN number 1784102906, located at 0 Industrial Drive. Mr. Coates.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and board members. Excited for this annexation. It's currently the property is owned by Wake County, 120 acres. A portion of this property will be used by the town for our Wendell Athletic Field Complex, and another portion will be used for the town's new recreation center. Both projects are progressing through design at this time. We will be purchasing the parts of the property from Wake County for our facilities. The property is currently zoned residential 3, is in the town's ETJ. Rezoning is not needed for these future facilities. I can field any questions that you have at this time.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Anything from the board? Well, I share your excitement about this one as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
So, is there anyone here or any citizens that would like to speak?
One quick comment.
Yeah.
I know in the past I've heard from staff, sort of a approximation or estimation that we may have one of the largest acreages of conserved land per capita in the region, and this sort of thing always makes me think, like, what's the real number? And so just, I know it's sort of unrelated to this, but it's the type of thing I'd love to hear about at a later date. Just makes me think of it.
Yeah, I don't
Unless
have
you
that
know
one
it.
top of my head.
If you know it, I'll be very
Unless you
impressed.
know it.
I will do some research for you, sir.
Thank you. All right, well, let's close the public hearing, and what's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the annexation and adopt the attached ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the annexation and adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion?
It's just really cool.
I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Item 5C is a public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 44.626 acres from rural agricultural to planned unit development to create Dean Farms development. And Ms. Griffin.
Good evening. This is again for Dean Farms development, 44.08 acres from residential agricultural to PUD 2401. What we call PUDs consist of two components. One is the rezoning, which is before you right now and has already been to the planning board. And the other part is the special use permit, which will be heard after, providing that you wish to go forward with the rezoning. The PUD document was attached in your report and gives their justification for rezoning, as well as details of the different zones as well. Zone 1 is 13.73 acres and allows for multifamily warehouse and office. It's on the south and east portion of the site and would be a minimum of 35% of the project area. This was before, you might remember, and they did add condition 9 in your PUD document, which talks about the multifamily portion. And while this could be 100% multifamily in this zone, they are asking for some time to do due diligence and get through to see if they can absorb the office and warehouse portion of it before they go to the multifamily component. Zone 2 is 22.55 acres, and again is warehouse and office to the west and north part of the site, and is a minimum of 48%. And Zone 3 is the commercial or the least intense area there and allows for retail uses along Wendell Boulevard and would be a minimum of 4% of the land area. The overall square footage could be up to 450,000 gross leasable square feet in Zones 1 and 2 and up to 6,000 in Zone 3. Any increase in the square footages from those numbers would require an updated TIA, and that any improvements required by the updated TIA be installed. Again, for annexation, it would require services from the town's police, public works, parks and rec department if annexed and developed. Secondary service impacts will be incurred by other town departments. The property is already served by the Wendell Holmes Fire District. Water and sewer are readily available to the property and would be provided, of course, by the City of Raleigh Public Utilities Department. There you see the project setting, what is around the proposed development, which ranges from Wake County R40 zoning to R7 conditional district. It is located along Wendell Boulevard between the two Lyles-Dean access points. There is a map showing the proposed rezoning and annexation area. Again, the applicant is requiring a PUD, and as such requires, they can set unique setbacks and zones and lot sizes and that type thing. This document will become the zoning document for the assemblage. And in this case, the lot sizes and setbacks do match the requirements in the UDO, so there's no change there. This would allow for larger developments with an integrated plan, and if there is a multifamily component that has setbacks, we require the 20 feet to make sure there's proper access. There are some proposed design requirements in the PUD document. It states that it'll comply with Article 5 of the UDO, except that retail, warehouse, and office shall comply with the following standards for facades, except for the rear elevations that don't face streets. At least 80% of the facades shall consist of one or more of the following approved materials: brick or glazed brick, wood, cementous fiberboard, stone, cast stone, stone masonry units, architectural concrete block, tilt panels, metal composite panels, glass, marble, or similar material. If they use metal composite panels, they'll be a minimum of 2 by 2 and shall have a generally flat appearance, so they won't look like corrugated or something similar to that. Facades may also consist of materials, as long as they're no greater than 20% of the facade, CMU, EFIS, split face block, or concrete block. Cinder block is not permitted. The applicant will need to obtain stormwater and sedimentation erosion control permits from Wake County Environmental Services. The PUD states that the project shall not exceed 70% impervious. The PUD document does call for the following perimeter buffers, which are slightly different than the UDO buffers. The southern border would be a type A 25-foot border. Western would be a type B 20-foot buffer. The residential parcels that front Wendell Boulevard, they would get a type A 25-foot buffer. And in the other areas along Wendell Boulevard, it would comply with the gateway overlay buffer. Any western border that abuts conservation management land may contain a stormwater control measure. The town's most intense buffer, which is a type A, is 25 feet in width and is intended to provide a very dense site barrier from significantly separate uses and zoning districts. A type A buffer consists of one canopy tree every 40 feet, one understory tree every 20 feet, and one shrub every 5 feet. The type B buffer is our medium density screen that's intended to create visual separation. The plantings are one tree per 25 feet and one shrub every 6 feet. They are generally 20 feet in width unless differences for conditional districts or something like that. UDO section 7.5 requires 1,000 square feet of open space for townhomes and 500 square feet for multifamily apartment units. The PUD states that natural areas of the overall development can be used to satisfy open space requirements as long as these areas are activated with an outdoor amenity that could be used by those residents. They could include, but are not limited to, walking trails, dog park, playgrounds, pickleball courts, and the like. Streams and wetlands have not been completely delineated yet because we are at the PUD document stage. They will be delineated further during the preliminary plan and construction drawing process. City of Raleigh will provide water and sewer to the site via the town's agreement with Raleigh Water. And the applicant is anticipating a 6 to 8 year build-out schedule. For transportation, a transportation impact analysis, or TIA, was required. Listed improvements are a southbound right turn lane with 125 feet of storage on Wendell Boulevard into the site, and a northbound left turn lane with 175 feet of storage on Wendell Boulevard into the site. NCDOT called for the intersection of the site drive and Wendell Boulevard to be monitored for a traffic signal. The applicant has addressed this in the PUD document under additional project conditions and notes 8, which states the signal warrant analysis will be a condition of the CO for the 150th square foot of industrial space and 350 multifamily units. If the analysis shows that a signal is warranted, the signal will be installed at the developer's expense. There is the drawing of the TIA improvements. Wendell Boulevard will be improved to a 3-lane undivided minor thoroughfare with 79 feet of right-of-way, which includes 3 12-foot travel lanes, 2 5-foot bike lanes, 2 7-foot planting strips for street trees, and 2 6-foot sidewalks. The property has approximately 400 feet of frontage on Wendell Boulevard. The PUD also commits to a reasonable easement along Wendell Boulevard for a future bus stop. The applicant is proposing a local street that runs parallel to Wendell Boulevard within the project. Blueprint Wendell classifies this parcel as employment center. The site was reclassified from medium residential 2 in November of 2023 as part of a 72-acre land use plan amendment that then classified it as employment center. Employment centers contain a mix of uses including office, light industrial, and institutional. These areas offer traditional workspace and can be supplemented by unconventional collaborative workspace where innovation and education can be fostered. Incorporating some retail, recreational, and residential units to create a live, work, and play environment is supported. Flexible open space that can be programmed for gatherings of various sizes and purposes is also integrated. The project meets the characteristics outlined in the description of the employment center place type as it relates to uses and connectivity, which includes a mix of uses including office, light industrial, and institutional, which is what it's comprised of, along with some multifamily possibly, and incorporating some retail, recreational, and residential uses to create a live, work, and play environment that's supported. The PUD does contain provisions for offices and multifamily. Open space requirements in the PUD are consistent with the UDO, so multifamily units will require land that is activated to serve the needs of those residents. Any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent. The Town of Wendell has adopted also a water allocation policy, economic development strategic plan, and Blueprint Wendell 2030 that all set priorities for the community related to tax-based job creation and land use patterns. The town has adopted that water allocation policy with a goal of achieving a tax base of 60% residential and 40% commercial and industrial. Our historical pattern has been about 80-20. The economic development strategic plan does identify several priorities related to creation of jobs and employment within the town, including strategic plan goal 2.1, work to grow and locate companies in Wendell to create jobs. The proposed development and conditional district rezoning are consistent with the employment center place type because the mix of uses is consistent with those in Blueprint Wendell 2030. There you see the reasons and in Blueprint Wendell 2030 that could be considered reasonable for this project. Centers of activity CA1, neighborhoods and housing NH3, economic development E3, economic development E3.3, economic development E3.9, and connectivity C.1. If the PUD is approved, the applicant will then submit preliminary plans to be reviewed by the town's technical review committee and then construction drawings from that point. They did hold a neighborhood meeting virtually on December 30th, 2024, with 3 adjacent property owners in attendance. Minutes from that meeting were included in your packet. The proposed document is consistent with the Blueprint Wendell 2030 and is considered reasonable since it fulfills the goals that we stated above, and therefore staff recommends approval of PUD 2401 Dean Farms. I can take any questions, but the applicant does have a presentation for you as well.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board?
One quick question. On the signalization situation, is it both requirements must be met, 150,000 square feet, the 150,000 square feet, and a 350th unit?
That is the way it is stated, yes.
Okay,
PUD.
not suggesting someone would do this, but could you game the system for a moment? If I said, man, I've got 149,000 square feet of industrial space and 700 units, and I wouldn't have to put my signal in, I've got to hit both requirements.
It would definitely not allow them to maximize their square footage that they would be allowed.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board?
One.
Yeah.
Excuse my voice.
That's okay.
Was there any extra consideration given to the property to the west where the Bailey Farms and that reservation was given.
The applicant is going to go over that part with you. I do know that.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
I'm sure that I will foul that up. Mayor and members of the commission, it's an honor to be with you this evening to present on behalf of Capital Commercial, which is the applicant for this project. I thought I would start by just zeroing us in on the employment center, the Blueprint Wendell 2030 plan, which calls for how this land would be developed in the future. It calls for offices, corporate headquarters, light industrial, research, development, manufacturing, warehousing, logistics. It calls for flex space. It allows for multifamily condos and apartments. It also mentions restaurants. What's been brought before you is calculated to deliver for you what you called for in Blueprint 2030. It is, as well, really appreciate working with staff all through this process to frame in the written materials how we meet the strategic plan and the long-range land use plan for the town. This is an overview of Dean Farm development. I want to take each of the components really quickly and talk to you about what we envision in each of those and how they interact, how they connect. First of all, total authorization that we're asking for is up to 450,000 gross leasable square feet. And that is in Zone 2, which is purple in this coloration, which is to the west and the northeast of the site, intended to be offices, headquarters, personal and professional services, light, neighborhood industrial, research and development, warehouse, logistics, distribution, the very things that were just described in the employment center land use plan. No big box retail. We exclude that in the use tables. No heavy manufacturing. That's excluded in the use tables. We laid out in great detail those things that we would invite into this space and those things that would not. Zone 3, up on Wendell Boulevard, 6,000 square feet of leasable retail. We envision that being sort of 4 to 5 tenants. Think about restaurant, think about personal and professional services that faces out onto Wendell Boulevard, small doctor's office, a dentist's office. That's what's proposed in Zone 3. Zone 1 is where there is a potential mix of uses, up to 150,000 square feet additional warehouse and office, or up to 350 multifamily units, or a mix of the two. Now, how does that interact? We brought to you, and there's a condition in here, that we will bring a site plan within 9 months of this approval, if granted. We will bring a site plan for, in Zone 2, 280,000 of the 300,000 square feet for office and industrial warehouse. We're going to try to get that fully absorbed over a 3-year period of time. If we fall short of absorbing that 80% of that almost 300,000 square feet, if we fall short, then a site plan can be brought in for residential. If we can get the market to fully absorb that almost 300,000 square feet, we have to bring in more office, warehouse, and institutional. So that is, and we, in the document, granted the town the right to audit our efforts to get this fully absorbed. It's a lot of what Wendell's strategic plan has been calling for. Wendell's 80% residential, 20% business. Y'all want to change that mix. This is how we can accomplish that. But that's a lot to bring to market. So we're asking for a backup option. If we can't get it all into the market within 3 years, we're asking for the right to bring in that residential. If we can get it absorbed, we're going to bring you more. Traffic. We have one required point of ingress and egress. That's the route that goes out onto Wendell Boulevard. There's a very fair question about gaming the signalization. We will be doing signal warrant analyses at each stage, at the halfway point and at the full build out. If that signal warrant analysis triggers that we need to install a signal, the developer will install the signal, paid for, not an issue. We have been working with other landowners around the site. There is, and I put the circles up here on the depiction that's, maybe you can see it's behind you, I regret that, but showing where there are other potential points of ingress and egress. If there is, and I would defer to staff on where it stands, the landowners immediately to our east, between the eastern line and Wendell Boulevard, if they bring forward a site plan across from that food lion, it's our understanding that there is an intent to try to signal right in front of the food lion. We are aligning our site to feed into the back of that site. So in the committed document that you have in front of us, we're going to dedicate public right-of-way along the eastern line that goes down to that southeastern corner, and we're going to do a private street that goes across east to west that aligns straight up and that would feed right into what could be a future food lion signal, if that comes. That's not our decision. That is, if it comes, we are committing to aligning and sending traffic in and out through there, which, by the way, may take pressure off of whether there needs to be a signal in that main point of ingress and egress. Within the site, we need to stub to the north and the south, which grant additional opportunities to either go out through Lyles Dean Road or back up to Wendell Boulevard to the north. Those are future decisions, not for us to make, for the future landowners to make, for future development to make. We're positioning this site for those future opportunities. By the time we get to the point of full build-out and final signal warrant analysis, we will be about 6 years from tonight. Whether there are one entrance and exit or whether there are four can determine ultimately whether or not that gets triggered, Commissioner. So water and wastewater, it has to go south out of this site. There is a manhole on Lyles Dean Road. There's an outfall beyond Carver Elementary. There's some townhomes down there. We intend to dedicate all of the infrastructure here in this for public use. It makes the employment center possible altogether. This is what we have for you. We're asking for your support for it. You see in the application materials how it's reasonable relative to the strategic plan and the land use plan for the town. You see, and we can address if we move to that stage, the special use permit and the ways in which we address the requirements there. Happy to answer any questions about this application and commend it to you, and would appreciate your support.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay.
You mentioned on the portion about absorption being measured in phase one. That's sort of my question is how. So you mentioned some conversation about town having the option to audit, sort of.
Yes,
but
sir.
can you just kind of talk me through layman's terms, like what is absorption? How do you track it? Is it literally the number of spaces or square feet of spaces leased at a given point in time, or is it a number that have never been leased? Like, what is absorption?
The way we have discussed this, the way we have proposed it, is we're going to build 280,000 square feet, and then we're going to put them on the market for lease. If they remain unleased, if no one comes forward through the networks and the marketing and says we are interested in this space or that space, then that would be unleased square footage. I don't know that we're going to weight it by dollar value per square foot. I think what we have in mind is very much just raw numbers. Here are the number of square feet that are built. Here are the number of square feet that are permitted and approved. What is the market taken up? And really, quite frankly, I mean, this is what's happening in a economic analysis to begin with, Commissioner, as you would be very well familiar. If the market says it wants and can handle this amount of square feet, the development team's going to deliver it. The concern is that it's a lot, but it's what the town in its strategic planning has said we need to diversify this base.
Thank you. On the Wendell Boulevard connection, that is the single required, I think is the way you described it, access. Am I correct that that's right in, right out currently in this plan?
It's not limited to right in, right out. It
Okay.
can come out to the left as well.
Okay.
I mean, we recognize that we're about to put commercial traffic through that onto Wendell Boulevard. It's part of why we've been in conversation with all the neighbors about how to make sure that it has interconnectivity. The most immediate viable second ingress egress is based on other development that we understand is coming between our site and Wendell Boulevard.
And just make sure I followed you, because I think there's been different versions I've seen with restrictions and things. Is the current version then of this proposal, as you understand it, full movements, like left in, left out?
Yes.
Right in, right out, or
Yes.
some, okay.
Yes.
And then, Zone 3, help me think through sort of what that portion of the proposal looks like 10 years from now, and sort of just to put a pin on exactly what I'm asking. I don't love you're driving down a highway on the edge of town and there's fast food restaurant, parking lot all the way around. It's all this like car focus. There's nobody moving from one business to another. You know, it's very the suburban scape that people maybe don't think is like the awesome, beautiful way to build a town in 2025. So is that, I really teed that up in an easy way for you to answer, I guess. Is that, I mean, in your mind, is that a single tenant building something on that site? Is it something else? Help me understand what that is.
We envision 4 or 5 tenants on that site. And again, part of our concept, I don't want to get ahead of what has been proposed, but as we come down Wendell Boulevard, the owners of the land coming down Wendell Boulevard and us are in conversation, and our engineers are talking about how we make sure that they're fully interconnected, not just from a transportation standpoint, but in terms of pedestrians and bikes and the improvements that we're doing along Wendell Boulevard will need to interconnect with what other land owners are doing on theirs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Commissioner Eatman has asked. When we're talking about Zone 1 with the possibility, and I know we're doing a lot of vision-type things here, but that's fair. If we're considering a combination of both, we have 80% is kind of that trigger, I guess. If we get to 60 or 65, like, do we have a number in mind where we'll do a combination of the two rather than either or? And I'm not holding you to any of that,
just inside of Zone 1 itself.
Just talking it through a little bit.
No, so we're going to do in Zone 2. We're going to do the 280,000 and try to get it to 80% within a 3-year period. And part of what our question is what's the market going to say it needs in 3 years? What's the town going to be saying?
If we need more and we get to 50% in Zone 1, are we going to press forward, or are we going to do a combination, or are we going to flip it to multifamily?
Well, if we get to only 50% of office and industrial?
Correct. Then I'm talking about Zone 1, though.
Just Zone 1?
Correct.
Well, Zone 1 doesn't get brought in for 3 years. So we're going to know where we are with the warehouse and the office for 3 years.
Is there a percentage for Zone 1 at that point?
No, sir. No, sir. At that point, I think it's an analysis of what the market is saying it will absorb, what it will bear.
Okay. I'm understanding now.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is there anyone here, any citizens here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the project? Or the item? Huh? Okay, can you come to the podium? Give me your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Craig Fitzpatrick. I live in Nightdale, 2622 South Smithfield Road. I am the owner of the property, the 12-acre parcel on the south east quadrant of the proposed development that's currently designated as Zone 1. I've collected some other comments and some that I've heard tonight that from other people who have put some time into reading the fine print of the long-winded prospectus that you all got, like us, late last week, and have probably not had time to look at it very thoroughly. In the prospectus, I was shocked and somewhat angered by the threatening words at the end of section 2-11 about condemnation. So I put some time into looking through the NC General statutes for some clarity on our eminent domain laws. There's a lot there to read. Section 40A-3 contains the definitions of 3 types of entities who may be granted condemnation authority. Each of the definitions of these 3 entities begins with the simple phrase, "for the public use and benefit." The most important of the 6 words in that phrase is public. Who is the public? In my opinion, the public, first and foremost, is made up of the people who now live on Lyles Dean Road. They are neighbors and friends, us, I like to think, and none of us want to see our 2-lane country road turned into an access road for a warehouse park and 350-unit apartment complex. The larger group of people that would fall into the word public includes everyone else who lives in the wider area around this proposed project. That likely includes most of the people in this room. You, Mayor, and you all are town council members who were elected to work for our best interests. We are your constituents. I consider all of us together to be that public that the wording of the statutes refer to. The word public might also be stretched to include a wider range of citizens and businesses, but in my opinion, the word should not be interpreted to include the owners and employees of an out-of-town development company and their out-of-town investors. None of them live here. They are in it for the money and not to enhance our local quality of life. The word benefit is also vague, but when based on a more localized definition of the word public, then it becomes easier to see that none of the people who live on Lyles Dean Road or many of the other citizens of Wendell will gain anything meaningful by allowing this project to proceed. Finally, the 3-year, 80% full default clause, hidden somewhat in the prospectus, all but guarantees that 3 years from now, the construction of the apartment complex will begin. This could add several thousand cars a day to the traffic flow at the Lyles Dean access point. With the traffic will come all-night parking lot lights, headlights, loud mufflers, loud music, police, ambulance, and fire truck sirens, and litter. All it takes to understand our position is to step into any of our shoes for a minute and imagine how you would feel about having your town government condemn and then take a couple acres of your land against your will for the sole purpose of enabling an out-of-town developer to make money. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Kurt Phipps, 515 Lyles Dean Road, Wendell. I would like to upfront state that I ask that you please deny the PUD rezoning of this property. I think we're trying to put too much on this piece of land, and it just doesn't seem to fit. I agree with Mr. Fitzpatrick that the 80% occupancy almost guarantees 350 apartments, because who's going to track the 80% occupancy? You just don't have to rent the place, turn them down. You can control whether you ever get to 80% occupancy or not. The apartments are the only part that bother me. I don't have a problem with the rest of it, but the PUD document says that apartments can be up to 5 stories high, and I just don't see 5-story apartment buildings, which that could very well be, fitting in this area. And so far as the traffic analysis that was done, it says that this will generate 6,580 daily trips. The thought of putting a stoplight or on Wendell Boulevard, the analysis says it will back up traffic. It says it may back up traffic considerably, which I think we can agree that it would. I don't have a problem with, with selling the farm. I find it disturbing that one neighbor would ask the town to condemn another neighbor's property solely for the sale of his property. You wouldn't want the house you live in, your neighbor wanting to sell his house, but the buyer said, I need half of the yard next door, so the town will condemn your yard so he can sell his house. There's something wrong with that picture. But other than that, I think it's too much, particularly with the apartments on this property. It's surrounded by active farmland. This is an active farm. When you look at public interest, the farm grows vegetables. In fact, the Parker's son's tenant. Is it better in the public interest to grow something to eat or build apartments? I think you could make an argument on both sides of that. But that's my opinion of it, and I hope you will consider it. And I thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else interested in speaking? All right, are there any more questions or comments from the board? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can we have staff speak to, I've heard condemnation.
Yeah.
Can we have staff, or someone on staff speak to that? And then, as well as the threshold piece, when I read that, I read it as if 80% of the buildings are leased, then they'll continue with building commercial. And so I kind of read that as, yeah, that will happen. It will continue to be commercial because that commercial is definitely going to fill up. I was actually going to make a joke to what gave you the idea that commercial might have a market here, that really large commercial when you got off the highway. So if staff could address. But I would like to understand the language better and let's our staff's understanding of the language.
Could you go over your comments just so I can address each one at a time?
The question around condemnation of land, and then my understanding of the 80% was that it would continue with commercial and was apt to be commercial, not multifamily. That was my initial reading, but I've heard a couple of different.
There may be some uncertainty about that.
So
Okay. So just to go with the condemnation, item 11 in your conditions in your report was updated by the applicant today. It's similar language to what we've had in other projects, including Wendell Falls, Ammons. If there's a reason for them where they've been unable to obtain right-of-way needed, the connection to Lyles Dean South is not a requirement in our UDO. We're always looking for connectivity and additional entrances and exits. They have been working with the developer of potentially some parcels across from Food Lion for access. We have been involved in those conversations with DOT and other projects. The condemnation the language does say that if they're unable to and the town feels that they have tried to satisfy everything, that they can come back to you for that option.
That was added today?
It was reworded today. It was in there before, and that's why the packet that went out had the old version, but number 11 has been reworded. That's before you today.
Can I follow up on that? So elaborate the option to condemn.
I'm going to refer to the attorney on that. I'm not an attorney, so.
If you look at the packet in front of you, turn to page 13, number 11, and I'll just read it for the record. Rights of way for improvements with regard to all on-site and off-site roadway and other public infrastructure constituting a public purpose for which the town is authorized to exercise eminent domain in accordance with applicable law. Applicant shall be responsible for obtaining all rights of way and other property necessary to construct all off-site public infrastructure necessary to serve the project. Namely, applicant will obtain necessary right-of-way for southern ingress, egress, and wastewater utility lines generally depicted in Exhibit 1 to the PUD application through one or more to be determined parcels to connect at Lyles Dean's Road. So what that is saying is that the applicant is responsible to go and negotiate the purchase of property with the adjoining property owners. There's a statutory, and the attorney can tell you about the process that we have to hold them to before a local government can even consider condemnation under the law. And so that process has to be fully vetted by the applicant before the town would even consider anything. If the applicant is unable, despite its commercially reasonable and good faith efforts, to acquire the necessary rights of way or other property for on-site or off-site public infrastructure, the town will exercise eminent domain pursuant to the General Statute 160A-240.1 and the procedures in General Statute 40A, fancy legal et sec, to acquire such property, to make such property available for construction of the infrastructure required under this agreement. So what that's saying is that the town will be obligated to go through the statutory process of condemnation. That includes a board decision within that process. That future board that would have that consideration would have to follow the statutes and go through the process and make their decision. That's not unlike what's in Wendell Falls or in Ponder, that we have to go through the process if a sewer easement or other improvement is needed for the public benefit of economic development purpose, which this would benefit a larger public. Before exercising eminent domain, the town must be satisfied in its sole discretion that the applicant has exhausted all reasonable means to acquire the necessary rights of way. The town must use its best efforts to acquire such rights of way and property within a time period that will allow Dean Farm project to proceed with timely development according to the anticipated development schedule. So again, it becomes the elected body under advice of their town attorney to determine if the applicant has fully vetted and gone through the statutory process to get to that point of decision. It's not taken lightly by a local government. It's always the means of last resort. And we always try and get the applicant and the property owners to find a solution before the public has to solve an infrastructure need for its future land use. Hopefully that helps.
It's, helpful and makes more sense. Yeah, go ahead.
And to answer your 80% question, the way we've envisioned is that town staff would track the percent of lease. So let's say they have 280,000 square feet, it is being marketed, it is under construction. At any given time, we could ask for a percent that is leased to the developer and work through that process. But that's our vision. It's similar to what we do on other developments where they're entitled certain number of units or certain unit types. We track those with submittals and can work with the developers to provide whatever information is needed per the conditions.
What staff conveyed to the applicant for Zone 1 was what we heard from the land use rezoning and prior conversation with the board was that they wanted to see non-residential use on the property. We conveyed that very clearly to the applicant. The applicant is making an investment in our market, and there's a risk to that. And so they wanted a flexibility in land use that was different than what the town wanted over time to reduce their risk. And this was the wording that was developed that tried to meet both of those interests. The board has its ability to do as it sees fit, whether it's completely one thing, if it's completely another, or if it's something in between.
That's helpful. We don't, the explanation of the 80% piece is helpful, and that's how I had understood it. Yeah, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor, I have a follow-up on that. So I'll just put this out there. I personally like the project. I like the diversification. I like the mixed use. I understand where it's going. Here's my one caveat that I want to get my mind around. What I'm not a fan of is that we or any future board, or that I would make a decision today that would empower a future board to take away somebody's land. Now, let me say that for a second. I understand if it was a sewer easement and you're going to have to dig up a hole and refill it and replant it to some degree, I can probably get around the public good for that. For a sewer, something you're going to bury, replant the grass, and okay. My concern is, are we seeing that we might, despite the best efforts of the applicant, and he or they, whomever, tries to buy these other pieces of parcel to get connectivity, which I'm a fan of connectivity, but if they fail, are we saying that then they must have a road? We must take someone's land and put a road in? Is that what we're saying hypothetically?
The UDO does not require that second connection. From a development standpoint, we are always looking for connectivity and giving people more than one way in and out of a project.
And I agree with that, but we don't, I guess my point is, we don't have to have that.
The sewer is the needed connection.
Okay.
Stuff flows downhill, that's downhill in that direction. There's a protected agricultural farm easement the other way that we want to respect. And so that becomes the way it flows. And where that is and which property can vary, that's determined on the location. The road isn't necessary.
Okay, and that's what, to address the gentleman's point, that was my concern, is when an individual says they're taking somebody's land, I want to address that for the record, that no, sir, we're not. Or there's no requirement to do so by this plan that I see. From a standpoint of a road over top of a land, I understand a sewer easement, if we have to connect the sewer line.
The road, the southern road from the project to Lyles Dean is not a requirement by the town's UDO.
Thank you, sir, that answers my question.
Doesn't it say in here ingress and egress and wastewater utility lines, like two separate things?
It does, yes.
So technically, that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world from a planning
I know
side,
you can't predict,
if the
but
property owner
I'm
said,
just-
yeah, we would love to have a road and sewer line go through, we would love that from a planning side because it gets
Right.
people other ways in and out, but it is not required.
And what was the reason for the delay in the addition of this, the change in this for today?
The reason we met with the developer and the language after the staff report went out and the PUD went out was not the language that we had talked about. So they adjusted it and revised it to similar to language that's in other PUDs.
Let me ask one more question, Madam Mayor, off your question, and I want the town attorney to answer this, please. So, to the mayor's point, I know it's not required. If we pass this 3 years from now, could another board pull that language up and go, okay, we're going to take this and put a road in there because it says ingress and egress, to the mayor's point?
A couple of points on this language. In the manager read you the 3 paragraphs, but I want to point out in the first paragraph, it has to be a public purpose for which the town is authorized to exercise eminent domain. So that's the threshold, which means you wouldn't need this agreement to acquire the property by eminent domain if that was your desire. The second point is, in the second paragraph, it refers to public infrastructure. So it's got to be for public infrastructure. What this agreement does is acknowledges by the town that there is public value in this development. There's public value in the public infrastructure, whether it's a road or sewer or some other public infrastructure. And that if you are satisfied with the developer's efforts, and if you choose to, you will consider to exercise your authority for eminent domain. It does not obligate you to.
So we are acknowledging, but we are not completely unlocking that in the future.
It's in your discretion whether to exercise that authority or not. That is consistent with prior developments.
Thank you. And that's helpful for me. I was caught off guard. Earlier with the 80% was not how I read it earlier, and asked a different question. Y'all have solved a lot of the questions that we had about the project last time we saw that. And well, you answered.
Anything else from the board?
Yeah, I just have some comments, I think, really. I mean, I appreciate the discussion on the eminent domain question because that's my biggest comment and question. And I think most of the questions that I could ask have been answered. The one thing I think I'll say is I don't know that I totally follow and am comfortable with the explanations that have been given, and with all due respect to staff on all of what they've said, it's been very helpful. But, I mean, the one thing in the language that we got this afternoon that I think I'm sort of stuck on is in the second paragraph. It does say that the town will exercise eminent domain. It's not if the town decides they want to, they can, but it does say, I mean, it says if they can't, if the applicant can't get the property, the town will exercise eminent domain. And I'm not a lawyer, so maybe this is my misunderstanding in the past, but I know in some of these other development approval or similar developments with similar language that we've had in town in the past, I have been under the impression that previous boards made commitments that obligated us to potentially take action related to eminent domain, and that's not something that I would like to do going forward. And I think the one last thing maybe that, I know some of this is maybe nuances related to more likely my failure to understand some of these things, but also it is differences in actual language in these past agreements that I think, I know it's not the same words, and so I see things in the past related to the town is authorized to, the town will consider the exercise of. So that's taken from some of the other PUD agreements with this kind of phrasing in the past, and it's on me for not having paid attention to those as much. But I know I've seen one or been involved with one in the past that I was left with the impression that because of this language, there was some action that the board was obligated to take in the future. And so that's, I'm telling you my perspective or understanding at the time. And I think the last thing on that is that maybe the other difference on this, I can almost follow and understand eminent domain for utilities when they're under the ground and your traditional use kind of goes back to what it was prior to the eminent domain in a different way than I understand eminent domain for roads. And so I don't know as much about how these previous PUDs had off-site road alignments that were part of the PUD agreement. But I mean, just in the right-of-way section of this one, it does say that the applicant will obtain the necessary right-of-way for the southern ingress and egress. That sounds like a requirement. And then afterward, it says if they can't, the town will exercise eminent domain. So that's, I'm just sort of elaborating on the sticking point. I know it sounds like there's some clarification or extra context that is coming, and then I got one more comment on a separate thing. Well, we can do this first if you'll let me come back after that.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Mr. Cawley wants to address that.
I actually had two edits to suggest to this language.
Okay.
And I think Commissioner Heatman has hit on one of them. My suggestion on that second paragraph would be the town will consider the exercise of eminent domain. My second edit is a new sentence at the end that says that, and I think this is also consistent with prior cases, applicant shall pay all costs and expenses associated with the exercise. going back as far as Wendell Falls, I think those changes are consistent with prior projects.
Well, yeah, I think maybe that partially, some of those changes would partially address some of my concerns. Some of the more fundamental ones, I mean, I think I have been proud to say to a lot of people in the public over the last 4 years, especially in the last year, that the town does not decide who develops their property. People who own the property decide who develops their property. And so this is flirting real close with that line and sort of my comfort level of being consistent in the way I understand development and the way that I feel like I've tried to sell development that we've approved in the past. So just kind of talking through my thought process right now. The other piece, though, is still related to the roads, and maybe just to put a pin, sort of bring all this together. I think that the place where this piece of property is located is it's exactly where we want. You know, we've all agreed. We had this conversation a year or two ago about economic development, site plan identification. This is the heart of a place that I think this board unanimously agreed, or a previous board, along with the county and all our regional partners, that this is a place where economic development should happen. This is a place where that 80-20 split should continue moving toward the 60-40 goal that we have between commercial and residential development. I'm really sold on that idea. And I think that the connectivity piece of it is a real, I mean, I care about connectivity in every development. Obviously, I talk about that pretty regularly. And Lylesdean Road, I just don't understand how we could fully fulfill sort of that plan without Lylesdean Road being part of it at all. And I mean, I know that's not the easy answer, but there's a whole lot of other parcels that adjacent Lylesdean Road around this one that, in my mind, have to be part of sort of the phase one. And I mean, everybody in the world knows the food line entrance is the biggest complaint in the world. And I'm just conscious of this creating another version of it, a quarter mile, half mile down the road on the other side of the road. And so I know it's almost like I'm saying two opposite things. Of you really got to have one of those other road connections, and I'm not going to figure it out for you. You got to deal it with the neighboring property owner to figure it out. And maybe that's seems hypocritical or inconsistent, but I think that's where my perspective on this one is right now. But I think that's all I've got for right now.
Anyone else from the board?
Can I follow up?
Yeah.
Commissioner Eatman, I'm a no if you need it. And I'll tell you this point, guys, he's right on the money on this one. You're on that real fine line of what we do or don't want to do. And I hate to say it that way, but I'm just trying to be honest. And I love the project there. That's not my issue. I know we need it there. I understand that. And I think that my worry is, and you heard me say earlier, ironically, gaming the system. When I get 40 pages on the day of the meeting and there's a change, and then I hear an allusion of something that may or may not be happening, I'm not mad at you. I'm not. I'm just trying to say my perspective. But then when even the town attorney suggests additional language. So when he is suggesting additional language, it tells me we're not quite there yet. So I'm happy to move to table it, and we get it all the way right, and we address some of these concerns, or perhaps you get a deal on that piece of property. Do you want to?
I wanted to make sure everybody on the board had their questions answered. What threw me off tonight was the pop-up surprise, right? Mr. Phipps has talked to me about this project every time I've seen a version of it, and normally I go talk to him, and he said, good, we're doing good on that. Economic development's what we need. When the economic development piece came in, good, we're good on that. When I heard conversation about it last time, it's like, yep, food line right across the street. That's the shopping center. I get it. To that point, one of the things that I will that I've said in the recent weeks that we need to do more of is hard conversations. And so I appreciate that you, by the end of your comment, got to, we can table this. But we don't have to start with yes or no. We can get to this. This got better the last time it went away. And it's got a road alignment piece that could fix Food Line, right? Could fix that shopping center. And it also has some suggested other outlays that everyone seemed to get pretty good notice of because you're all here. And so everybody's here, everybody's at the table. We have a project, we have an applicant. The longer the applicant sits here, the more the commercial is going to happen because the proof of concept is at 87. So I was going to ask the board's thoughts on moving it to, I know we have another meeting coming up, move it to that meeting, move it to a date certain, move it to whenever staff would like to bring it back. If nothing else, to let our attorney and their attorney sit down and make sure that everyone's real good on the language related to eminent domain. The other piece is, and I think about this a lot now because I won't be here, but you can't bind a future board. If they decide that that's what they want to do, right, that's what they're going to do. You can leave suggestions and you can try to set up good projects, and you can make sure that when you have willing participants trying to get to that end, you don't let them walk away. So that's what I would suggest. I'm happy to field that however you like.
Okay. Anything else from the board before we close the public hearing? All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's y'all's pleasure?
You always know my thoughts on it when it comes to getting it right, so.
Mr. Manager, is the way we can phrase a motion that, or staff, it would be most helpful to it to come back at a,
That sounds like a legal question. I'm going to defer to the attorney.
It's really a function of how much time you think you want to push this out and how much time it may take to get it in an order that.
I'm not on a,
Do we have to do it to a date certain, or can we table it
They
and
come back whenever.
y'all figure it out and staff notices it in the
Would
future?
avoid republication of notices and that sort of thing.
As in the public meeting stuff, or just like notice of this meeting? Like, I don't really mind, maybe I'm oversimplifying this. If you're just saying that it would keep us from having to notice another one of these meetings, then I don't really care about that. But is it a separate step that would be required if we, outside of one of these meetings, if we don't table it to a date certain? Does that question make sense?
November 24th is the next meeting date. That would allow the attorneys to work out language, and perhaps they'd have more insight on.
Okay.
Seems like a big impact thing, but a small fix.
Till November 24th, and then if it's not there, you can report back that it's not there. Or if it is, then you can report that.
A date certain is preferable.
Madam Mayor, I move we table this item until the November 24th hearing.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to table this item until November 24th meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Assume this means we're skipping 5D. We'll move to 5E.
Do we need to?
You want to continue that one to November?
Yeah, we probably do need to. Okay. Can we get a motion to table item 5D?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? All right. Item 5E is a public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 105.36 acres from neighborhood center to conditional district and from neighborhood center conditional district and residential 3 to neighborhood center conditional district to create Oliver's Trace.
Good evening again. This item before you is for Oliver's Trace, a single-family subdivision. Applications have been received for the annexation and rezoning of approximately 105 acres along Eagle Rock Road to Neighborhood Center Conditional District, and from Neighborhood Center Conditional District and Residential 3 to Neighborhood Center Conditional District to create a 270-unit subdivision known as Oliver's Trace. 4 of the 5 subject properties were previously approved for Neighborhood Center Conditional District as part of the Leo at Wendell subdivision project, multifamily project, along, again, Eagle Rock Road that's north of Cotton Gin, as it's now known. You see the pins before you that are involved. The proposed annexation area would require services from the town's police, public works, and parks and rec department. Secondary service impacts would be incurred by other departments as well. There you see the land uses around the subject development. To the north is Anderson Farm and Leo at Wendell. Much of the other land around the project is occupied by single-family homes or is undeveloped. The subject properties are partially within the town's corporate limits and partially within the ETJ. Annexation is required for the parcels not currently in town limits. Neighborhood Center Conditional District is coded for areas of residential and mixed-use development in close proximity to existing and proposed neighborhood centers. It does, while the front setback of 10 feet, rear setback of 25 feet, and side setback of 3 feet stated in the conditional district is the same as the base neighborhood center district in the UDO. They are asking for a 3-foot corner setback, although I think we corrected the plans on that. I'll let her address that when it comes up. The UDO does call, again, for the corner setbacks to be the same as the front setbacks. All homes are front-loaded, and the UDO requires that garages be set back at least 20 feet for allowed parking in the driveway. There you see the outline of the subject parcels. The applicant has proposed a number of zoning conditions with this. The developer will reserve 1 acre of land identified on the submitted master plan to be utilized for non-residential uses. That is the same as was before you with the Leo at Wendell project. The following uses shall be prohibited on the commercial parcel: ATM, funeral home, group care facility, laundry services, auto parts sales, alcohol beverage sales store, event venue outdoor, wireless communication facilities, and utilities all classes. The following uses shall be permitted by right with no special use permit required on the commercial parcel: general retail, 10,001 to 50,000 square feet, child daycare center, more than 8 persons, micro distillery, micro brewery, micro winery. Residential uses shall be limited to no more than 275 single-family detached homes with a minimum lot width of 41 feet and a minimum lot size of 4,700 square feet. The community will have an HOA which shall be responsible for maintaining all common areas throughout the development. All single-family homes shall include a front porch with 1 dimension, excluding the height, of at least 5 foot 6 inches. At least 50% of single-family homes will have a front porch of 50 square feet or greater, with all front porches exceeding 30 square feet. And as Brian said earlier, those are things we track through the building permit process as well. A minimum of 12-inch roof overhang shall be provided along the front and rear of each residential building. Front and rear yards and corner lot side yards shall be sodded. Side yards between homes may use sod, mulch, stone, or landscaping conducive to drainage. Garage doors shall either contain windows or carriage-style adornments. Each home exterior shall be comprised of 1 or more of the following: fiber cement, board and batten or lap siding, brick, or synthetic stone. Vinyl siding is not permitted except for trim elements of the dwelling unit facade. All dwelling units shall include a minimum of 1 door or window on all side elevations per floor. For the anti-monotony, in order to promote variation in home appearance, no single-family detached front facade shall be duplicated for 2 lots in a row or directly across the street. For corner lots, that does apply to lots diagonally across the intersection as well. Each home will have a rear porch, screen porch, deck, or patio of at least 90 square feet. The primary amenity site, which will be privately owned and maintained by the HOA, will at a minimum include a pool with a minimum 3,000 square feet and a clubhouse, minimum 2,000 covered square feet, and will be constructed within 18 months of plat approval of Phase 1. The developer will provide a 20-foot public easement to the town of Wendell connecting to the Anderson Farm Greenway easement to the north for potential future greenway alignment. To avoid environmentally sensitive areas and to create multimodal connectivity and a greenway extension, the greenway shall be provided as a 10-foot multi-use path on the residential streets connected to existing asphalt multi-use path that's along Cotton Gin and Old Battle Bridge Road and stubbed to the south of the property for a future connection to the Buffalo Creek Greenway system. Streets A and E, H shall have a 5-foot planting strip to accommodate the proposed multi-use path. Where a home fronts a multi-use path, the required setback shall be reduced to 20 feet. Again, front-loaded, the garage will be at least 20 feet back. The developer shall provide and incorporate public art to enhance the main amenity area and other community elements as approved by the town. Foundation of homes shall be monolithic slabs, raised a minimum of 8 inches above the finished grade. Any exposed foundation fronting a public right-of-way shall be treated with brick or masonry for a minimum of 10 inches above finished grade. As shown on the master plan, Street G shall be one-way with a minimum of 45 feet of public right-of-way, and Street D shall be a one-way with a minimum of 52 feet of public right-of-way. If not completed by others prior to construction drawing approval, the developer shall acquire the necessary right-of-way and shall provide the improvements required by the current arterial and collector street plan to the southern half of Cotton Gin Old Battle Bridge Road along the side frontage, including the extension of the existing asphalt multi-use path to the site's internal multi-use path. Staff asked for this condition because it is required by the Leo project, but if for some reason that would not be completed by that project, this would provide for this applicant, this developer, to have to complete those improvements. Access to golf cart charging will be provided at the main amenity. The applicant will need to provide stormwater and sedimentation and erosion control approval from Wake County. The proposed plans do show the development of 5 stormwater control measures throughout the site. Buffers in this case are not required due to the single-family home use in this subdivision. There is a large area of wetlands to the east and railroad tracks to the south. On the western side of the development, there's road frontage where street trees will be required. To the north, at the border with Anderson Farms, there's a jurisdictional stream. These streams have state-required buffers known as riparian buffers, with no clearing within the first 30 feet closest to the stream and only limited clearing on the outer 20 feet. When projects, again, are anticipated to have more than 100 peak hour trips or 1,000 daily trips, the UDO does require a transportation impact analysis. TIA was completed for this development with 2,602 daily trips and 190 AM peak hour, 262 PM peak hour, and contains the following improvements: to monitor the intersection of the realigned Cotton Gin and Eagle Rock roads for a signal, a right turn lane with 50 feet of queuing from northbound Cotton Gin into the site, a left turn lane with 50 feet of queuing from southbound Cotton Gin into the site, a driveway from the site that allows straight right and left turn movements out of the site onto Cotton Gin, and a driveway that allows right and left turn movements onto Leo Minor Lane. In the arterial and collector street plan, Eagle Rock is a future 4-lane divided road, which contains 110 feet of right-of-way with travel lanes, bike lanes, sidewalks, and street trees. Cotton Gin Road is a future 3-lane road with a 79-foot right-of-way, again with those same elements. The developer is proposing a 10-foot multi-use path at the staff's request along Cotton Gin. There are local streets with 52 feet of right-of-way throughout the development, as is required of a local street. There are 2 stubs to adjacent properties, and all lots do have the required 2 parking spaces, and there's also parking at the amenity as well as parallel parking on some of the internal streets. The plan shows 2 phases. Wendell Blueprint 2030 identifies this parcel as 3 different categories: medium residential living 2, activity center 1, and activity center 3. The density of the neighborhoods between 4 and 8 units per acre with the medium residential living 2. This proposed project will have an overall density of 2.59 units per acre. Improved open spaces. The proposed development does have a park, a pool, and a multi-use path that connects to the greenway. The 2 lots that are designated as medium residential living 2 are mostly consistent with the comp plan, other than the lesser density of 2.59 units per acre, less than the 4 to 8 units per acre that place type calls for. If the conditional district request is approved, the 2 lots would be changed to MRL1, which has a density of 2 to 4 units per acre. The 2 parcels now noted as Activity Center 1 were designated as medium residential living 2 when Blueprint Wendell 2030 was originally drafted. But in March of 2023, the place type was changed when the rezoning of the Leo project was approved. So the comp plan had to change to accommodate that, as it didn't meet the MRL2 place type at the time. Since the AC1 place type does not allow for single-family homes, this part of the project is inconsistent with Blueprint Wendell 2030 and would need to be changed to medium residential 1 if this conditional district is approved. Again, it was previously classified as MRL2. The future commercial parcel has an Activity Center 3 place type. At this time, there's no designated use on the property. However, the commercial nature of the property does meet the intent of the Activity Center 3 place type. Again, any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how it is or is not consistent or is not reasonable in nature. The medium residential 2 place type calls for 4 to 8 units per acre, and this one is 2.59 units per acre. So the plan is partially consistent with Blueprint Wendell and could be considered reasonable as it assists with the plan goals listed on your screen: neighborhood and housing NH3, centers of activity CA1, art and culture AC2, green spaces and greenways G.2. This development does include over 3,500 linear feet of multi-use path and the 2,400 linear foot greenway easement that contributes to the overall Buffalo Creek Greenway system. The applicant did hold a virtual neighborhood meeting on August 26, 2025. 3 neighbors were in attendance, and those meeting minutes are in your packet as well. The technical review committee has reviewed the master plan and the applicant has made corrections based on that. Additional review would occur at construction drawings if approved. The proposed development is partially consistent with Wendell Comprehensive Plan Blueprint Wendell 2030 and could be considered reasonable since it fulfills the goals of the comp plan noted above, and therefore staff recommends approval. I can answer questions for you, and the applicant is here and does have a presentation for you as well.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board for now to start? Yeah.
Mine are kind of quick. Just make sure I understand the piece of that funky little intersection where there's the triangle of road.
Mm-hmm.
This gets rid of the piece, I guess, as far as the north-south piece to the east, whatever that's called. I don't even know if it has a name. But not the one you would go on if you were going up to Sheets.
Yes.
And I think my right. Once you
Yes.
cross the little, you can turn right and then go right to
Yes.
come back up to Old Battle Bridge. So is that's all pending future NCDOT right-of-way abandonment, though, right? That's
Yes.
that's a process that'll be between the developer and
Correct.
DOT. That was question number 1. Question number 2, just on the site plan map, there's a notation on the commercial outparcel portion of the map that I think is related to maybe like a ditch that's in that tree line or something. Is it a buildable parcel?
The commercial parcel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's really the question. Thanks.
Anything else from the board?
The part of that road is expected to be conveyed to the town from DOT, so we will have input on that as well. Just
Thanks.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Set up here. All right. Good evening, Mayor Gray and Commissioners. My name is Ashley Honeycutt-Terrazas with Parker Poe. I'm at 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I'm working with the applicant team on this project, Juan Montez and Mike Kemp. with MI Homes, who are the developer for the project, Matt Gross, and Morgan Sis with Kimley Horn, land planners, and then Kevin Dean with Kimley Horn, our transportation engineer. So we're all here to answer your questions this evening. And I'll kind of, Stacy did a great job presenting this, and I'll kind of go over some of the highlights here in big picture. So again, this assemblage is a little over 100 acres, bordered by Eagle Rock Road and the Cotton Gin Old Battle Bridge intersection on the western part of the site. The Carolina Coastal Railway, which we understand from the neighbors, we did have an in-person neighborhood meeting, and they explained to us that there's about 5 to 6 trains per year on that site, on that railroad to the south. And then the Buffalo Creek Greenway, or the Buffalo Creek runs north-south through the eastern part of the site. And then the 2 other streams run east-west on the southern portion of the site along the shared property line with the existing Anderson Farm neighborhood there to the north. So Stacy mentioned some of this, but the site does have some history. It's been through 2 different rezonings in the past 5 years. The current zoning permits quite a bit of residential already on this assemblage. So the R3 portion there to the south was rezoned about 5 years ago, rezoned to R3, which we understand was seen as an appropriate density at that time, given the access restraints for this parcel in isolation. It didn't have access to a public street. Property was not annexed at that time, so pursuant to the town's current policy on annexing with rezoning, we filed an annexation petition for this parcel. The northern NCCD portion of the site was the second phase of the Leo at Eagle Rock multifamily project that was approved in 2023, as Stacy mentioned. Phase 1 is currently being built out across the street there. But we have tried to take some of those relevant zoning conditions and commitments that were part of that case and incorporate them into a proposed all single-family detached owner-occupied neighborhood for this entire assemblage called Oliver's Trace. So we, as Stacy mentioned, we are requesting that neighborhood center conditional district to support that 1.2 acre commercial outparcel at the intersection of Eagle Rock and Cotton Gin, which that was a part of the Leo rezoning case as well, you may remember, and is consistent with the comprehensive plan guidance for the Activity Center 3 at that corner, but we had to request a district that allows commercial uses. But most of this property is planned for a single-family detached residential neighborhood with approximately 270 single-family detached homes, and as Stacy mentioned, that's a 2.59 unit per acre gross density, and this site includes a lot of environmental features, so that's the density, takes into account the gross acreage. The residential density and lot sizes are more akin to like an R7 zoning designation. So I'm going to run through some of the features of the proposed neighborhood, the parks, the open space, the amenities. Almost 11 acres of open space we're proposing here. Much of this is environmentally sensitive areas around the Buffalo Creek that will remain natural, undeveloped area, but 2.8 acres of improved, amenitized open space for use by the residents and some of it by the public, which would be the multi-use path, Greenway Trails. Proposing a central neighborhood amenity center, the clubhouse, pool, and golf cart charging to be built within 18 months of approval of Phase 1 plat. And then, as Stacy mentioned, over 3,500 linear feet of multi-use path, Greenway, connecting to, there's an existing multi-use path on Old Battle Bridge, Cotton Gin Road that was installed by Anderson Farm several years ago. We would be connecting, right now there's no plan to connect to that. We would be making that connection. That will be a public amenity and part of the larger Buffalo Creek Greenway Trail. So the Phase 1 of the Buffalo Creek Greenway Trail project, we understand just received a large federal grant. And this section of the multi-use path would be part of Phase 2. So this was something we worked on closely with staff as they're planning out the future Greenway connectivity in this area. In terms of buffers, undisturbed wooden stream buffers will buffer the homes from Anderson Farm, Old Battle Bridge Road, and the larger properties to the east. And then the railroad track to the south there is in a 100-foot right-of-way of buffering for properties to the south, and the lots are planned to be about 30 feet from the right-of-way line where the existing vegetation will be maintained as allowed by grading. And Stacy went over these, but there's many architectural commitments and the zoning conditions, commit to materials. Many of those conditions, I'll tell you have seen before, and other more recent residential cases. So commitments related to materials, facade design, unit variation, raised foundations with brick or masonry, front and back porches, the things that we'd like to see to make sure that these are attractive new homes in the town. And again, consistent with other recent single-family detached residential cases, and these were commitments that we worked on closely with staff. So attractive homes geared towards maybe a second-time home buyer in Wendell. So to go over some of the zoning conditions, commitment to a commercial parcel at the corner for that small-scale commercial use, and the conditions related to permitted uses on that parcel is very similar. We looked at the Buffalo Reserve commercial out parcel, a recent case, to kind of look at some of those, smaller scale commercial uses that might be appropriate at that corner. 275 lots maximum, at least 41 feet wide, and 4,700 square foot minimum lot size. Again, as Stacy mentioned, that primary amenity that's going to be built within 18 months of the Phase 1 plat. And these are some similar amenity areas that the applicant has built on other projects in the Triangle, just so you all could get a sense of their amenity areas. Public art in the main amenity and throughout the community. If you'll recall, that was also a commitment of Leo, and so we brought that into this zoning case as well. Dedication of a greenway easement for a potential future greenway alignment on the eastern side of the site. And that would connect, there's also a greenway easement on Anderson Farm to the north, so it would connect to that. But in working with staff, we wanted to build a connection now for the existing Old Battle Bridge multi-use path to stub to the planned Buffalo Creek Greenway system to create that connectivity more quickly with this project. And so Greenway connectivity, again, was also a commitment of Leo, but we updated it with this project to reflect more current Greenway plans. And then also, as Stacy mentioned, we'd commit to build the Old Battle Bridge road frontage improvements if those are not completed to others prior to construction drawing approval. So again, those improvements should be a part of the Leo project, but if Leo doesn't build them, then this project will. Again, as Stacy discussed, the zoning request is technically less intense than what the current future land use map calls for on the northern half of the site, that part in red there where it says current flume future land use map. And Stacy mentioned this as well, that when Blueprint Wendell was approved in 2022, that's what's there on the right. It was designated as medium residential 2, which is a designation that calls for primarily single-family detached housing types, and it's the same designation as the adjacent Anderson Farm neighborhood. So this is the residential housing type that was envisioned when the comp plan was originally approved. And then again, those northern parcels were updated to Activity Center 1 when Leo was approved to reflect the multifamily housing type that was permitted with that case. But we would propose to take this residential portion of the property back down to a designation that supports a unified, single-family detached development pattern. So the design we worked on for Oliver's Trace is consistent with many blueprint policies in Blueprint Wendell, including policies to expand greenways and multimodal connectivity, have livable neighborhoods and a variety of housing types in the town, development of key nodes like the small-scale commercial node planned at the intersection, and the incorporation of public art into the project. And this is actually represents a decrease in the overall residential units permitted on this assemblage, but a more cohesive development pattern than what is permitted there today. So this did receive a unanimous recommendation for approval from your planning board. We had a really good discussion about this project with the planning board, which included the 3 new members who are really great. By the way, I don't know who nominated them, but they asked some really good questions, and one of them lives in Anderson Farm. So he was very familiar with this site and with this area, and the other 2 new members are both very sharp engineers. So it was a good discussion, good questions, and they did end up unanimously recommending approval. So we do have a great team here that I introduced at the beginning. We're here to answer any questions you have about Oliver's Trace, and we respectfully ask that you approve the annexation and rezoning at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
I think Ms. Stanley wants to say something.
All right, are there any citizens that would like to comment for or against? If you don't have to raise your hand, just come up one at a time and give me your name and address.
You said
No, ma'am, come to the,
Multiple cracker back.
ma'am, I need you to tell me your name and address.
My name is Leatrice Yvonne Stanley. My address is 916 Bryan Boulevard, Goldsboro.
Okay,
And
you-
she didn't tell the truth.
You need to, your public comment is to address the board, not to address anyone
Okay, well,
else
I
here.
just want to
So
tell
you
you,
can tell me and us those things,
the other
whatever you
people
want to say.
that were at that meeting did not go along with all this mess. Now, they're not here today, I don't think. But we were told that it was going to be single dwelling places, houses. Now I'm seeing they're going to be multiple, those little cracker box things. That place is not that big. And I happen to have lived there quite many years, right across the road. The railroad track is not, she said about 8 trains a year. I agree that there's not a lot of trains, but I talked with one of the guys not long ago, and they're gonna, that railroad will be activated according to the plans are. And this was one of the high officials. So you can count that one out. And the traffic is already terrible there. There's not even a 4-way stop or nothing in Eagle Rock. Y'all need to get out there and see what's going on. I don't know how many of you have been out there and took a look at the building and all. We just can't, it can't be a complicated, the roads, it's just not there. It's not feasible to have that many houses there. The roads can't accommodate them. I'm not living there, but if I was living there, and if the people in Eagle Rock knew what was going on, they'd have a fit. The people who've been there for years. And to my knowledge, they weren't even invited to this meeting tonight. They don't even know what's going on out there. That's the truth. They just see all these houses being built and they know, they see the traffic, but that's, nobody's, y'all were nice enough to send me a letter and I really appreciate it. But somebody needs to stop and take a look at what's going on in Eagle Rock. It's a disgrace what's happening. And I don't believe you're aware of it. I mean, I'm for, making the place beautiful and all that stuff, but common sense is you can only have so many cars on a little road. Just promise me some of you will take the time to go out there and look at what's going on. And the houses are being built out there. And it's a nightmare right now. And I've got 2 pieces of property out there, and the taxes are going up higher and higher and higher. And I wouldn't give you 50 cents for what's going on. But I think that this thing, somebody needs to take a look at what's happening in Eagle Rock and the road situation and everything. Because y'all are the ones that's going to be responsible for it, I would think. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Your name and address.
Good evening. Kara Miller. I'm at 1053 Leo Minor Lane. So I actually back up to
to the proposal here, which is actually a really beautiful proposal. I have a tree line that could possibly be impacted. I'm new to the area. I've only been here for a year, but one of the purposes of us relocating to this area was for the nature, was for the property and for the arts. And again, I do like the proposal. Like this other woman said, the roads there, they're complicated, and it's a 2-lane road, and there is more traffic. There's definitely more housing going in. I guess my biggest concern is really with the infrastructure. Kimley Horn, I work for an architecture firm, so familiar with Kimley Horn and understand they've probably done a traffic impact study and all of those things. But yeah, I mean, I guess really my concern is more with the infrastructure and the things that are in the community, wanting more of the businesses. Our schools are packed, overpopulated, and I don't know if there are plans for more schools. There's so much housing going in. I'm in a new development, right? So I see it, I understand it. But yeah, I mean, we're moving families in here and wanting to be sure that those families have somewhere to go. Places within the communities that are walkable and sustainable and not, taking away our nature. So I do appreciate that they're preserving some of those spaces with the greenways, but I guess just general concerns of more housing developments in the area. Appreciating that you're not doing apartments and completely dense housing. So just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I can clarify our transportation plan and state roads versus town and
Yes.
kind of what's out there versus what happens when development happens. So right now, Eagle Rock Road, Martin Pond Road, and Knightdale Eagle Rock Road are all state roads. They're maintained by the state of North Carolina, and they're designed as a rural road to move traffic of that nature. Within this area, it's within the town of Wendell's transportation plan that was adopted more than 10 years ago. I mean, it identifies road improvements. As properties come within the town and annex into the town, the developers have to do road improvements along those roads. The town then also seeks bonds and does gaps. So like intersection of Eagle Rock Road and Wendell Falls Parkway right now, there's a commercial development happening on that corner. They're doing some improvements there, but the voters approved bond improvement for road improvements. So we're doing 4 lanes in both directions with turn signals at that intersection. So we logically follow where growth is within our fiscal constraints and do improvements along roads. We're interested in seeing the intersection at Knightdale, Eagle Rock, Martin Pond, and Eagle Rock, where that comes together, being aligned better and fixed in the future. Having town property there gives us a reason to do that. Right now, none of that property's in the town. It's out in the county. So the town doesn't have a responsibility in that place. The town doesn't control the streets in that place. Those are state roads. When a development occurs adjoining and around there, then the town has the ability to do the improvements and implement the past board adopted transportation plan. And voters of the town, people who live in town, by about 70% voted yes to doing these road improvements out in places, even when they're not in town, because it impacts their travel. So that's one example of this particular area. There are road improvements. I would love for the state of North Carolina to step in and do improvements to their roads. They frankly just haven't found the funding in the past, and I'm not holding my breath for them to do that. But this board and town proactively go in and do improvements to keep those arteries open.
Since you're going, can you talk real quickly about schools?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same vein.
Brian Coates, the planning director, and his staff regularly meet with Wake County public school systems and provide them our growth numbers, and we work with them to actively acquire school sites. They've acquired a new elementary school site on Marshburn Road. That one is in design and permitting now. When that gets constructed, it will likely be a swing school site to improve other elementary and expand other elementary school sites. If you have land and would like to sell it for school sites to the school system, they are interested in buying in East Wake. Everybody understands where the growth's happening. It's hard for a local government to compete with the development community on what they can provide for land versus what a school system or what a town can provide for parks. We're also interested in land if you want to sell land to the town for parks and open space. But yeah, so there's one new elementary school. There's plans to improve Wendell Elementary School. Carver will likely follow behind that with the swing site. They'd like another elementary and at least another middle school. If they do a new high school in the area, it'll likely be towards Zebulon, and then they'd use that as a swing site for East Wake. So yes, all that's in process and planning, and you can follow the school system and school boards capital planning regularly. They talk about that.
Not under our purview necessarily, but we do try to.
We try and influence and assist with land
Regularly,
identification
not
and
just
put
every
them
once
in
in a while,
touch with
but
different
regularly.
property owners and developers.
Okay. All right, anything else from the board?
Mayor, I was just going to add that
Mhm.
I have more comfort with some of the previous items tonight after looking at this one, and I think for good reason. One, the project across the street from this one I voted for, and it's one of the densest projects in all of Wendell as far as from a housing perspective. I'm very proud of that project. And the innovation district that's going to create around it, connected to Wake Tech, connected to us, like there's a lot of cool things there. What's coming back in this project is a less dense option that actually we would have, actually I've had the opportunity to vote on before at this same level of zoning, because the first time Anderson Farms came, there was an option for both sides of the road at basically that density. So things and the market move. And we approved a project, and the market looked at a project and said, hey, there's a different product that can come in here. That also, I appreciate the fact that there's 21 conditions, and I think that's the first time I've seen the word golf cart in a condition, so that's exciting. But they come back, right? And the reason that the project earlier can go to the table and it comes back a little bit different, and even sometimes when they go out the door and somebody says, that wasn't the right thing, guess what? This one's come back. I think there's been improvements on the project, and not because of the size of the house, not because of if it's a cracker box or a cracker jack, whether the road piece is connected. It's because, to their point, they looked at the last 3 versions of what's happened out there and connected some really big spaces and fixed one more thing that wasn't fixed in the last version of it. The only way we can lose at this, to I think some earlier folks' points, is we quit. So if we just keep working at it, you get better products. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to make a motion whenever the board's ready.
Okay.
Can I make one more comment, Mayor?
Yeah.
And to the citizens' point, this is why that we're very fortunate to have the talented staff that we have. I'm going to give you one more example. We all know Rosal Road. We all know where the Sheets is. We know where the ABC store, the bank is. We understand what the Wendell Commerce Center is. But let me give you why this example works. That is a bad level of service before any of the members of this board ever got here. Even before the mayor was here, it's a bad level of service. It's used by Raleigh. It's used by Knightdale. You're shaking your head. I agree. It's used by Zebulon. It's used by Wake County, Johnston County. A lot of people use that road, including Wendell. Okay? We all use that intersection. However, bad level of service. What did the town of Wendell do? We approved almost 1.5 million square feet of mixed-use industrial property that diversifies our tax base, which is a lesser burden on the citizens of Wendell and their taxes. It is a lesser burden on the rooftops of Wendell and a heavier percentage burden on the forthcoming, hopefully, bio-farm or whatever they're going to put in there across from Wake Tech. It'll be high-paying jobs, but importantly to your infrastructure question to the young lady also in the back, it puts in another lane. If you ride by there today, it puts in another lane. It moves the angle of attack, for lack of a better word, the angle of attack of the intersection to be much more cohesive. I'm going to use the word feng shui, but they'll connect. Thank you. What we inherited was behind the car sales dealer a strange angle. So my point to this is that is the town of Wendell proactively leaning in, solving a bad level of service that we inherited by a phenomenal staff and a phenomenal board that I was not part of. I'm taking no credit in this. The people up here made that decision. I did not. They did a heck of a job solving that problem. It'll be a better intersection with a better signal, another lane, and nobody paid for it except the developer. To me, that's how you solve the problem. So to this particular example, if I get road improvements, that is the way it has to happen. You have to get the development in there for us to take a county situation and us solve it without raising taxes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Can you slide back?
There's not a motion slide.
There's not a motion slide. Yeah.
Thank you. My computer died, so I can't see that, and I
Oh.
want to make sure I get this correct. Madam Mayor, I move we approve the rezoning of Oliver's Trace Neighborhood Center Conditional District.
An annexation.
Excuse me, annexation.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the annexation and rezoning and,
Statement of consistency and reasonable.
and adopt the ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
We're giving him a lot of instructions.
I just, Madam Mayor, I move we.
State it, go ahead.
I move that we approve the annexation and rezoning request, as well as the statement of consistency and reasonableness, and adopt the attached ordinance for the Neighborhood Center Conditional District to create Oliver's Trace.
All right. I don't know if I can remember all that now to restate it. So we have a motion to approve the annexation and rezoning and approve the, what was it? What, Jim? Statement of reasonableness, right? And adopt the ordinance. Is that everything? Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, all right. Let's move to, you know what? We're going to take a 10-minute recess. So we'll be back at 9:27 on the dot. Everybody in here's visiting so hard. All right, we're going to move on to item 5F, public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 83.63 acres from Wake County Highway District to Residential 30 and Residential 30, to Plan Unit Development to create an industrial and commercial plan unit development known as the Wendell Exchange. We'll hear from Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening,
Plan
Mayor and
Director.
board members. The next two items are related to Wendell Exchange. There's the rezoning that you'll hear first, and then the special use permit, which enacts the PUD regulations. And so zoning and map amendment, this proposal is for roughly 83 acres of two parcels owned by Dorothy Knott Preston. The parcels are referenced there and along US 64 Business and Keiths Road on our edge with Nightdale. PUD is divided into 3 zones. We'll go over each of those zones. The zones are configured so that less intense uses occur along 64, more of a retail commercial area, transition to what will be a business industrial park. For this project, there is no residential development within this PUD. The PUD does include a list of uses per zone. The PUD document was an attachment, has exhibits related to the proposed PUD. The document, if approved, will serve as your preliminary plan approval, and development sites will be submitted as construction drawings. Staff has confirmed this with the City of Raleigh. To not have to go through a preliminary plan approval, you have to provide enough utility information up front in the PUD, which the applicant has. The properties in this general area are Wake County zoning. As I mentioned earlier, Keiths Road is the dividing line between future Wendell and future Nightdale. There is also a large natural gas line that runs down Keiths Road. This site, to give you a little background, was identified as a much larger regional site for economic development. With Nightdale, the two towns have been working together, talking about economic development in this area and development types. There are frontage along Wendell Boulevard, and then the majority of the property has frontage along Keiths Road. You can see here's the parcel. We do have some city limits down along Wendell Boulevard that are commercial zoned. And as I mentioned, Keiths Road is that western boundary between the two future towns. The zones, Zone 1, Zone 2, and then Zone 3, and we'll go over each of those. Just to go over this, so there was a TIA, and we'll go through all those improvements as well. The applicant does have staff here to answer questions. There are some design guidelines for this project. Mixed-use buildings will follow the UDO requirements, Section 5.13. Commercial buildings will have the components listed there. Industrial in zones 2 and 3 are exempt from building design requirements. However, all buildings will incorporate change in color, building materials, interprojection every 100 feet of facade. This is similar to some other industrial projects that we've had. All mechanical units shall be screened from the public right-of-way or residential use. Unit-mounted screens are permitted. The applicant will need to obtain stormwater, sedimentation, erosion control permits from Wake County for each of the projects of the phasing or how they get submitted. Some buffers, quite a few things. Wendell Exchange will provide a 15-foot streetscape buffer along US 64 and Keiths Road that will serve as a gateway to the development. This buffer will include 3 canopy trees, 6 understory trees, 20 shrubs per 100 feet. Understory trees may be pyramidal evergreens or ornamental trees. The mix of tree type matters in a buffer. You like to see a mixture, so no matter the time of year, there are some buffers and screening. Street trees will be provided every 40 feet as required in the UDO, but will be planted in a 10-foot planting strip behind the curb, still in the right-of-way. Private roads will also have street trees planted 7 to 10 feet off the back of the curb and spaced every 40. The UDO does not require street plantings on private roads or alleys, but the applicant is proposing those. PUD states that reasonable efforts will be made in order to maintain the perimeter buffers. Zones 2 and 3 will preserve a 20-foot undisturbed outer project boundary where possible, but where it is disturbed and graded, a 25-foot type 1 replanted buffer may be implemented. Zone 1 will provide a 15-foot type 2 buffer against adjacent properties. There'll be no interior buffers, and existing vegetation may count. A type 1 buffer is a 25-foot wide and contains 1 canopy tree every 40, 1 understory every 20, and 1 shrub every 5. A type 2 buffer is 15 feet in width with 1 canopy tree every 30 and 1 shrub every 7.5 feet. Open space, the UDO does not require any open space for non-residential, therefore no open space is required. There are some environmental features that will require some buffering, so there will be some open space in it, even though it's not required, but there's environmental features that need to be buffered. Utilities, water, and sewer service will be provided on site via the town's agreement with Raleigh Water. Raleigh Water will need to approve all infrastructure to extend service to the site. The PUD does provide Raleigh Water with enough information to fulfill the requirements of the preliminary plan, which will allow the applicant to skip that stage in the development process and proceed to construction drawings if the PUD is approved. The applicant is anticipating a 3-year build-out schedule. They expect to commence site work as early as possible and target 2029 as their earliest build-out timeframe. A TIA was required and done for the project. Overall trips, the project could generate roughly a little over 11,000 trips per day. 2 intersections will be monitored for a traffic signal at Three Sisters Road in US 64 and Keith's Road in US 64. The applicant does have zoning conditions in there to trigger when that warrant analysis will be completed. And they do have VHB is their traffic consultant that can answer questions as well. Along future access 4 and Three Sisters, the TIA does call for a right turn lane from US 64 onto Three Sisters, as well as a left turn lane from Three Sisters onto eastbound US 64. There are also 3 access drives along Keith's Road, and I'll get to the next slide. That actually has the TIA requirements. And also there are 2 comments. So the traffic signal improvements at Keith's Road and US 64 with turn lane improvements if required by DOT. If a signal is not already installed at this intersection prior to the approval of a certificate of occupancy for the first 200,000 square feet of industrial space in Zone 3, developer shall submit a signal warrant analysis to the town of Wendell. If the signal is warranted and approved by DOT, it shall be installed prior to the issuance of unconditional certificate of occupancy for the first 200,000 square feet of industrial space in Zone 3. The first 200,000 square feet of industrial space shall still be eligible for conditional certificate of occupancy, assuming all requirements have been met. And then pretty much the similar language to Three Sisters. It'll trigger when that warrant analysis is required. And then Zones 1 is commercial, and Zone 2 could be a mix of commercial and industrial type uses. Blueprint Wendell 2030 does classify this as Innovation District. There was a land use plan amendment in 2023 as a result of the Wake County Economic Development Site Identification Study that was done. This site was commonly referred to as Site 1 in our land use plan amendment. It's part of a larger 300-acre area along I-87, Knightdale Boulevard, Rollsville Road, Keith's Road, and Wendell Boulevard. Site 1 is in the joint area with the town of Knightdale. They are expecting some non-residential on their portion as well in the future. The applicant is committing to future transit service stop connecting Knightdale and Wake Tech. That is occurring now in 2025. It's key for us to have jobs and non-residential uses within that transit corridor so that residents and employees can use that service and have more than just a vehicle to get them there. They could have bus service. The area is also served with microtransit in that area as well. Innovation District includes a wide variety of non-residential uses such as light industrial, research and development, flex space, office, education facilities, breweries, lodging, retail, and personal services. This is a planned unit development. They are providing the mix of uses, and I'll let them explain their intent and kind of their recruitment efforts for the site. Statement of plan consistency. I know you've heard some of these things tonight. The proposed development is consistent with the Innovation District because the allowed uses within the PUD document are consistent. Plan is consistent, but it also could be considered reasonable as it assists with support of development of key nodes, large and small. This would be large. Diversify the local economy, increase employment opportunities in Wendell, create space, land, and buildings to meet varied demands, focus on job creation, strengthen our partnerships with businesses, institutions, and neighboring jurisdictions, and then creates a land use pattern that works with, not against, the transportation system. And as mentioned earlier, we do have a water allocation policy that our goal is to have our tax base more diverse than it is currently, roughly the 80-20, to get closer to a 60-40 split. Does take pressure off the single family or the homes and in their potential for tax payments. The Town of Wendell's Economic Development Strategic Plan identifies a variety of priorities related to creating jobs and employment within the town. We have done a lot of these things. We've identified future mixed-use business park locations, created a program for site building identifications development to be prospect ready. While I'm here, I will say, due to our current projects under construction, we now can submit very often to economic development things from the state when companies are looking to locate or relocate or expand. We have sites and infrastructure and buildings for them. TRC has reviewed the PUD document. As we mentioned, there's enough information there that this includes their preliminary approval. They did hold a neighborhood meeting. Staff is recommending approval and consider that it's reasonable, it fulfills goals of the comp plan. And I can field any questions. The applicant does have a PowerPoint, and I know there are some residents who would like to speak as well.
Okay. Let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board for now? Yeah.
On the TIA, on the pictures, the picture with all the lights and the future exchanges. What's the light where it says NC55 bypass? It's like the third light from the left, the right. It's the one in the middle.
Third light.
What light is that? Am I?
That's the one.
Wendell Commerce, I-87.
Well, the next one, Nell's the 87 one, is it not? I'm sorry, I got you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yep, I appreciate it. Okay.
Anything else from the board? All right, let's hear from the applicant.
Yep.
Good evening again, Mayor Gray and Commissioners. I'm Ashley Honeycutt-Terrazas with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I'm working with the applicant team for this project as well, and I'll introduce them briefly. Zach Wagner with Strategic Capital Partners. He's with the developer for the project. Michael McQuillan with Atwell, civil engineer for the project. And then Andrew Top with VHP, our transportation engineer. So I'll do a quick overview of the site. And as Brian mentioned, we think this is ideally situated for economic development, business park use in terms of location, access, visibility for the businesses who will locate in the park, 83 acres on US 64 business just to the west of the I-87 exit, and just down the street from the new Wake Tech East, and Wendell Commerce Center, which, as I know you all are familiar, a PUD that is a proposed mixture of uses like this one, that was approved just a few years ago and is now under construction. The Wendell Commerce Center PUD and the proposed Wendell Exchange PUD are similar in a lot of ways in terms of permitted uses, architectural commitments, permitted types of buildings, buffers, et cetera. A lot of the same applicant team worked on that case as well. Except for Wendell Exchange proposes only non-residential, commercial and industrial uses, while Wendell Commerce Center, which is a bit larger, has a residential component as well. And so before I get into detail about the PUD zoning request, I'm going to ask Zach to come up and introduce himself to you all and Strategic Capital Partners and their overall vision for this project.
Good evening, and thanks for hanging around this late this evening. Wanted to introduce myself, Zach Wagner with Strategic Capital Partners, kind of give you a quick intro who we are. That we are an Indianapolis-based developer, I'd say primarily office industrial investment with a primary focus of industrial development. We've done several projects in the Raleigh area. We've done about 1.4 million square feet in the RTP airport submarket via 2 projects, Patriot Park, a 5-building industrial park, and then we're a partner in Triangle Business Center. We've also done 2 office buildings in the perimeter park area. We call them 4540, total only 400,000 square feet. And I relocated to Raleigh to open our 2nd office last year. So I really cover our Carolina and Virginia portfolio, and we chose Raleigh to open our 2nd location is really just to be a long-term partner to the community and our growth strategy here. And I'd say the project today that we're presenting, extremely excited about and appreciate the opportunity to present it to you. I think this is our main priority at this point, is getting this going, hopefully. And we think it's going to be a great project, and we've done a lot in the RTP. That's kind of been our bread and butter for development. And I'd say typically how we would envision developing this would be on a speculative basis, which that's how majority of the industrial development, not just here, but really around the country, seen that requirements pop up quickly. Companies don't have the time to go through the entitlement process, the design, the permitting, that they need space. And that's really why you see a lot of these buildings like Wendell Commerce Center, for example, starting construction speculatively. So we think the RTP, we've done quite a bit there, but East Wake is really, you've seen a lot of momentum coming this way with companies expanding, relocating, and we think East Wake has really become a primary submarket in Wendell that we're excited to keep building on the momentum that's happened here the last several years. So that's the proximity to 87, 64. We'll talk about it, but there are key infrastructure improvements needed here for it to be viable. I think just not for just our project, but I think traffic flow as a whole. I think trucks wouldn't be able to make coming south off Keith's Road and go east towards 87. That would be a tough turn without a signal. So we'll talk about the different improvements we're anticipating making, but as we worked with NCDOT and staff to kind of understand how we want to lay this site out as far as uses go, that we came up with the proposed 3 zones that you see, that 3 sisters are working through the process of kind of understanding the TIA improvements and Wendell's future thoroughfare for Glendon Boulevard extension. We thought that with the signal at 3 sisters, the potential signal, that really created a retail viability, and working with staff, adding an additional use besides industrial seemed to be a key component to it. So I think the improvements once we learned that a signal was feasible based on the TIA, we thought Zone 2, instead of where industrial was our primary intent, we think there could be commercial viability. So from a marketing perspective, to really attract, that's why you see commercial uses and industrial uses. And that's really due to, we think, the infrastructure improvements that this will bring really kind of allows a wide variety of uses. So we've got our team of experts here to kind of walk through in detail, answer any questions, but at least wanted to introduce myself. Hope to, not just this project, but continue to be a long-term partner with Wendell. So I will say the intent would be a Class A industrial park with the concrete tilt walls, glass, painted facade, and kind of different elevation changes. So we wouldn't envision, and you'll see the list of architectural standards, but I think we've got the slide that shows some sample projects as well. So
exactly, and I'll go over the PUD. Again, at this location, proposing mixture of non-residential uses. Again, coordinated that with staff. So we've got Zone 2 and 3. And in terms of buffers for this one, Zones 2 and 3, a 20-foot undisturbed perimeter buffer or a 25-foot Type 1 replanted buffer. Zone 1, 15-foot Type 2 perimeter buffer, and then a 15-foot streetscape buffer on Keith's Road and US 64 Business. And I did want to mention Keith's Road has an additional 50-foot gas line easement along it, and you can kind of see it hatched there, so that would also remain undisturbed. In terms of circulation, we're looking at a Three Sisters Road realignment that we're working on with NCDOT, and then the public north-south and east-west roads in zones 1 and 2, and then the access easement for future connectivity to the parcel to the east up there in Zone 3. Again, like Wendell Commerce Center, we have the PUD architectural requirements. In the commercial buildings, will have high-quality material requirements. These are industrial buildings will require changes in color, materials, projections to ensure architectural interest and screening for mechanical units. And these are included. We've included some images from Strategic Capital Partners' prior industrial projects, just to give you a sense of what they could look like. And like Zach said, the idea would be a Class A industrial space that can accommodate a variety of businesses. On the transportation, and we can talk about this more, but the planned signals will enhance the safety and traffic flow for the entire surrounding area and really are necessary to make the project successful. Industrial traffic in Zone 3 needs to be able to make a protected left turn from Keiths Road onto US 64 Business to get to I-87. And then the commercial businesses in Zone 1 also need this turning movement for viability for those commercial businesses. So we're not planning any restricted access, all full movements onto US 64 Business. TIA also recommended turn lanes and turn lane links to accommodate the project traffic. And I did want to mention that figure from the presentation was DOT's error on the streets. That was not from our TIA. Like Wendell Commerce Center, this PUD has a trip bank of permitted trips that can be generated based on the proposed uses as the site is built out. And if the uses exceed the trips allowed by that bank, the TIA would need to be revised. Frontage improvements along Keiths Road include sidewalk and bike lanes and will require about 9.5 feet of right-of-way dedication on this site. And internal public streets within the site will be built to the town standards as well with those sidewalks and planting strips. And given that bus rapid transit is planned along the US 64 Business Corridor, we worked with staff on a condition to dedicate a transit stop easement in Zone 1, which again is that section by US 64 Business, in order to accommodate a future transit stop and to pay a fee in lieu for construction of the future transit stop. If that's, it would need to be approved by Go Triangle before it becomes an official transit stop. So in sum, Wendell Exchange PUD is the type of use that was envisioned for this site when it was designated as an innovation district in the comprehensive plan only a couple years ago pursuant to that Wake County Economic Development Study for suitable economic development sites. And again, consistent with many policies in Blueprint Wendell, primarily around helping the town reach its economic development goals to bring more jobs to Wendell, and it's in a prime location for this proposed economic development use. And I did want to mention the planning board. We had a good discussion with them, very sharp engineers, and they also unanimously recommended approval of this case as well. So we have a great team here, same design team that worked on Wendell Exchange, Wendell Commerce Center, and we're happy to answer your questions. And we respectfully request that you approve the PUD rezoning, and then we'll move on to the special use permit portion of this.
Right, anything from the board for the group? Any questions? Are there any citizens here that would like to speak? Yes, sir. May I have your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Tommy Drake, Drake Properties, 3700 Computer Drive in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I represent the Knott family, who owns property on both sides of subject. Ashley, would you put the site data map up?
Sure.
You
want to go this
That's
one?
the one.
Yeah.
Does that show up on y'all's screen? Okay. So with me tonight is Mr. Joe Knott, a longtime native of Wendell. Joe's father, J.T. Knott, still lives in the home, white farmhouse, on the 86 acres to the east of subject. Mr. Knott is 99 years old, and he's been there pretty much his whole life. So the Knott family owns the 86 acres to the east of subject, and also the 20 acres to the west. It's a sort of a triangular shaped, arrowhead shaped property that fronts on Keith Road. That is 20 acres. So they have about a half a mile of common boundary to the east and a quarter mile to the west. The Knott family supports this request for rezoning. Mr. Knott and I met with Brian and his staff, 4 or 5 years ago when the Blueprint Wendell 2030 Comprehensive Plan was in the infancy. We've communicated with planning. We were at the neighborhood meeting. We were at the planning board meeting, and we've met with the applicant. And as neighbors, we support this rezoning request, and we thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
I'm Carmen Battle, and I own and it's 1133 Keiths Road. And I own on the left side of the subject property. And it's a Nightdale address. And so I do support this project. I think it would be awesome to bring that to this area. And it's very well organized, and I did attend, and I was invited to not only this meeting, but I attended the discussion meeting as well. So I ask that the board approve it.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, anything else from the board?
One quick thing from me. Been interested in my family tree recently, so I feel like, especially with the Knotts talking, I ought to at least say that Mr. Knott's mother and my wife's grandfather were first cousins. And I dug a little bit harder. I had to pull up the tree on this one, but his great aunt, who's also Dr. Preston's aunt, who owned this property, was Ollie Robertson, was the sister to my great-great-grandfather, Atlas Jones. So we not kin close enough to really even have anybody know. I don't have any involvement in any of this project. I don't think it sways any of my opinion, but just want to make sure everybody's real clear on the tree. And I'll be happy to draw it if anybody wants to see it. It is different sides, the wife's part and my part, so don't worry, we're
We'd like
clear.
to see that tree.
I promise if you get him started on genealogy, I promise if we get Commissioner Eatman started on genealogy that we will not end anytime soon. And I heard a good round of public comment. I appreciate the public highlighting the number of things they were invited to. Look, we hear it both ways, but I love hearing when process benefits you. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'd certainly move the
Well,
approval.
let's close the public hearing and now move. Okay, go.
I'd move the approval of the rezoning request for the Keiths Road
Adopt the attached ordinance.
and adopt the attached ordinance.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and rezoning and make a motion to adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, let's move into 5G, an evidentiary hearing on a special use permit by Strategic Capital Partners LLC to create Wendell Exchange Plan Unit Development on 83.63 acres located at 8805 Nighttail Boulevard and 1100 Keiths Road. Before we get started, let's have the town attorney review the special use hearing guidelines.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a evidentiary hearing or quasi-judicial hearing. Due process rules apply. The board is to base its decision on the evidence presented at the hearing. Witnesses are sworn, and certain types of evidence requires expert testimony such as valuation and engineering matters. And just to clarify, Mr. Eatman, nothing about this project affects your financial income or status.
That's correct.
All right.
Yep, I'm going to have the clerk come down and swear us all
Yep.
in. Anyone who'd like to testify needs to be sworn in.
Yes, anyone who's going to speak pro, con, or speak on behalf of any of the parties or anything needs to be sworn in, please. All right, we'll open the public hearing. Let's hear from staff.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members. So this is the special use permit hearing for the Wendell Exchange project that you recently approved the annexation and rezoning for the two parcels that equal roughly almost 84 acres. As we mentioned, the PUD did contain 3 different zones, no residential development. The surrounding area, as referenced in the slides, I like to submit the slide deck for the record. The PUD document does serve as a preliminary plans. It was confirmed by City of Raleigh Utilities. And as I mentioned earlier, this project is on the boundary between Wendell and Town of Knightdale as the area grows. Map, which contains the outline of the property included in the PUD document. Special use permit criteria, we'll go through each of these pretty quickly. The proposed use does not adversely affect the general plans, the physical development of the town. The town's comp plan classifies these parcels innovation district. The proposed of uses in the approved PUD that was just held is consistent with that place type. PUD districts are allowed under the town's UDO. When we talk about is the proposed use will not be contrary to the purposes stated for these regulations. The proposed use will not adversely affect the health and safety of residents and workers. The proposed development plan will need to obtain any stormwater erosion control permits. All uses will need to follow any local, state, and federal regulations for health and safety. The proposed use will not be detrimental to the use of the development of adjacent parcels. The location of the proposed PUD is off of Wendell Boulevard and was part of a land use plan amendment in 2023. The site also has stub roads to neighboring properties and allows them utility access and road network access. The proposed use will not adversely be affected by the existing uses. The entire parcels are part of the PUD, therefore they will not be adversely affected by the proposed use. PUD does propose unique zoning districts and zone lot sizes setbacks. This document will become the zoning document for this parcel. Since the PUD has general parcel and road lines, the lots will be further defined during construction. The proposed use will not constitute a nuisance or hazard. Proposed uses are consistent with innovation district, and only those uses listed in the approved PUD document will be permitted. If approved, the next step for the project would be to submit development plans that would show details on uses, vehicular movement, and activity. Standards set forth for each particular use. All design standards and building codes will be complied with as uses are planned and added to the development. The board may impose or require such additional restrictions. The board, as you have the right to add any additional restrictions or conditions you see fit based on the development and the needs of the community. Proposed use shall be subject to the minimum area setback. They're following all the UDO requirements. The proposed use shall be subject to the off-street parking. So the PUD has parking ratios for allowable uses. In addition, the document states that parking will be allowed up to 150% of the minimum requirements. If it exceeds that threshold, a parking study is required. Again, here's the exhibit of the 3 zones and improvements. The zones, as you can see, as we talked about before, have a list of uses. PUDs are meant to have a mix of uses and go through a similar process for the development. Same zoning conditions of the SUP that were in the rezoning. I won't go through all of them in detail. The PowerPoint is submitted for the record. But they are planning. The TIA was completed, shows the road improvements. They did hold a neighborhood meeting. Planning staff does not make a recommendation on special use permits. We did do the legal advertisements and signs on the site, and a public hearing notice was placed on the property, was mailed to the adjacent property owners, and the newspaper ad did run for 2 consecutive weeks in Wake Weekly. The applicant does have a PowerPoint. I can field any questions you have at this point as well.
Any questions so far for town staff? Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Yep.
Good evening again, everyone. Ashley Honeycutt-Trazis with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, here representing the applicant Strategic Capital Partners. As you just heard, this project approval involves 2 distinct steps: a legislative rezoning to a planned unit development zoning district and a special use permit to approve the proposed master plan. So you just heard and approved the legislative rezoning item, so now we'll move on to the SUP. And this hearing is quasi-judicial in nature, meaning we're required to present evidence and testimony to show we meet the requisite standards for granting the SUP, and if the board finds that we've met those showings, the SUP should be granted, so bear with us. I do understand some of this testimony may seem redundant. So I'll, with that context, I will begin by providing an overview of the site and then calling our witnesses to testify to the SUP showings. So we will present competent material and substantial evidence on each of the 11 required SUP factors in section 15.15b2 of the UDO, using 4 witnesses. So Zach Wagner, Vice President of Industrial Development with Strategic Capital Partners, will speak about the project and the vision for the project. Michael McQuillan with Atwell, an engineer for the project, will speak to the plan's compliance with the town's development regulations and land use policies. Andrew Topp with VHB, the transportation engineer on the project, will speak to the project's traffic impacts and proposed mitigations. And finally, Hunter Howell with Paramount Commercial Appraisers will explain that the plan will not be detrimental to adjacent properties and that the proposed use will not be adversely affected by surrounding uses. So I'll call our first witness, Zach Wagner. At this point, Zach, can you please introduce yourself to the board?
Sure. Zach Wagner with Strategic Capital Partners. Good evening. I'm Zach Wagner. Office address is 280 East 96th Street, Suite 250, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46240. I'm Vice President of Industrial Development with Strategic Capital Partners. As I said earlier, a real estate investment company that focuses on office industrial with a primary focus on industrial development throughout the Midwest and the Southeast.
At this point, I'd like to tender Mr. Wagner as an expert in the field of land development. Please explain Strategic Capital Partners' history and background in this type of development.
We've been around for 20 years, founded by 2 ex-Duke Realty executives, founders of Duke Realty. So I'd say the collective team we have has been involved in industrial office development and acquisition for probably collectively over 100 years. So I'd say focus throughout the Midwest, the Southeast, that we've got a general Raleigh area presence office. I think our intent is to develop the industrial project within Wendell.
And does the board have any questions for this witness?
Anybody?
Okay. All right, thanks, Zach.
Yep.
And at this time, I'll call our second witness, Michael McQuillan. Please state your name and address for the board.
Good evening. My name is Michael McQuillan, office address 126 North Salem Street, Apex, North Carolina 27502.
And can you please describe your background and experience?
I'm an engineer at Atwell. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from the University of Buffalo. I'm a licensed professional engineer in North Carolina. The number is 29395, over 22 years of experience in civil engineering. I've worked on over 4 million square feet of industrial projects, not including other office, retail, and residential projects over the years, and have significant experience ensuring projects comply with the town's Unified Development Ordinance and other long-range plans of state and federal requirements.
And can you please explain for the board your role in this project?
I drafted the PUD text and have overseen the design and layout of the master plan. I've also reviewed the UDO and worked with town staff to ensure the PUD and master plan are in line with town standards.
At this point, I'd like to tender Mr. McQuillan as an expert in the field of civil engineering and site design. Okay, Mr. McQuillan, can you please look at page 12 of the PUD? This is Strategic Capital Partners project. Which is shown on the screen, and explain the master plan layout.
Yes. The master plan you see on the screen has gone through several rounds of review with the town staff. We've worked with the staff to refine the plan and ensure it conforms with the applicable development standards. I'll provide some high-level details, but I'm happy to share more specifics if there are questions. Overall, the master plan permits a large industrial mixed-use project with industrial development on the back of the site. Commercial uses along Wendell Boulevard and a commercial or industrial flex zone in the middle to accommodate market conditions. The master plan is split into 3 zones with different uses for each zone. Uses have been strategically allocated on each zone based on the zone size, location, access, and requirements for the use. Zone 1, shown in orange, on the master plan is intended as a commercial area. A variety of uses are permitted in Zone 1, including hotels, banks, professional services, restaurants, general retail, and shopping center. A full use of the permitted uses is found on pages 3 through 5 of the PUD. And all of the uses may be permitted in the PUD zoning district as identified in the UDO section 2.3C. Zone 2 is shown in red on the master plan and will either be commercial or industrial area depending on market condition. It includes the same wide range of commercial uses as Zone 1, as well as industrial uses that are permitted in Zone 3. Zone 3 is shown in blue on the master plan and is intended primarily for industrial development, although other non-residential uses such as recreational facilities are permitted. The zone covers the majority of the land area and represents the project's intent to be industrial-focused development.
Can you please describe the buffers and dimensional standards for these use zones?
Yes. The master plan has been laid out and designed to meet the town's UDO standards to ensure that the development is not detrimental to adjacent development or existing uses. Where the PUD does not set forth a specific standard, the town's UDO will control. The project will meet the UDO requirements, open space requirements, and will not exceed 70% impervious across all the zones. Zone 1 is intended, which will be the commercial area, will meet the town's UDO requirements for commercial development's dimensional standards. Zones 2 and 3 will be subject to the building dimensional requirements on page 7 of the PUD text. Notably, the project includes a 60-foot perimeter building setback around the project to help mitigate effects of adjacent properties in these zones. Also, there is a 50-foot wide gas easement along Keith's Road that cannot be disturbed, so this will provide an additional buffer and setback for industrial buildings from Keith's Road. The PUD text also requires 20-foot undisturbed outer project boundary buffer around zones 2 and 3 where possible. It would be increased to 25 feet, type 1, opaque buffer, planted buffer if vegetation must be disturbed for grading. The text also clarifies that no interior buffers will be required, which is appropriate given the street layout and environmental features that will provide buffering within the site. There is a 15-foot type 2 planted perimeter buffer around zone 1. The streetscape buffers are tailored specifically to each new street within the site and with the modified gateway buffers on Keith's Road and US 64 Business.
Does the PUD have architectural standards for the building?
Yes, we've also included a list of architectural commitments for both commercial and industrial buildings in the PUD, which ensure that the buildings on the site will be of high quality. These are the same architectural standards approved within Wendell Commerce Center.
And can you please describe how Wendell Exchange will route public utilities?
Yes, we have extensive discussions with City of Raleigh Public Utilities Department related to public utilities routing for this project. Zone 3 will extend public water main along Keith's Road frontage and throughout the development in the public access easement. Zone 1 and 2 will extend public water main throughout the development in the public road right-of-way. These new lines will provide connection points at all street stubs for adjacent properties to extend when they are developed. For zones 1 and 2, for zones 1, 2, and 3, the public sewer will be provided with a new public sewer pump station located near the southwest corner of the property, which will pump via force main along US 64 Business to the gravity sewer manhole east of I-87. Regarding parking, the permitted uses have a minimum vehicular and bicycle parking requirements, which are outlined in the PUD. The PUD also allows that if the parking exceeds 150% of the minimum, a parking study will be required to justify the need for additional parking.
To sum up, do the PUD and master plan meet all UDO requirements and PUD standards outlined in UDO section 2.19?
Yes.
And can you please explain why the PUD and master plan you just walked through are consistent with the town's land use map and comprehensive plan?
The land use map, or the land use manual designates the property as innovation district. The district calls for a mix of uses ranging from light industrial operations and market space to office, retail, and service of business to support job growth in the area. The proposed PUD master plan is directly consistent with the guidance in terms of uses and layouts, and the proposed roadway network and improvements are consistent with the town's transportation plan.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions for this witness?
Anything from the board?
Okay. At this point, I'll call our third witness, Mr. Andrew Topp. Please state your name and address for the board.
Yes, Andrew Topp. My office address is 940 Main Campus Drive, Suite 500 in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And can you please describe your background and experience?
Yes, I'm a traffic engineer at VHB. I have a bachelor's science degree in civil engineering from Virginia Tech and a master of civil engineering from NC State. with a transportation focus. I'm a professional engineer in North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina, and I have 25 years of experience as a transportation engineer and have performed hundreds of traffic studies for public and private sector developments throughout North Carolina.
And can you please explain for the board your role in this project?
Oversaw the traffic impact analysis for this project and have reviewed plans for conformance with the UDO specs and transportation plans.
At this point, I'd like to tender Mr. Top as an expert in the field of transportation engineering.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please describe the traffic impact analysis that you performed for this project?
Yes, the traffic impact analysis for this project was completed with town staff as well as NCDOT with the assumptions of the project including 775,000 square foot of industrial, 15,000 of retail, 4,500 of food, fast food and drive-through, and a 5,000 square foot gas station. The analysis creates a total vehicle trip count that will be used to monitor the density of the project as the project develops. Each construction drawing submittal will be reviewed and compared with the original TIA assumptions to ensure that the planned construction and necessary infrastructure improvements is completed. If trips exceed the original assumptions, further traffic studies may have to be done at that time. The analysis included studying key intersections near the site, including the traffic anticipated from several other projects in the area that have been approved but not yet expected to be complete for several years. Our analysis estimates a total of approximately 11,317 total site trips within a typical 24-hour period, including 1,119 trips in the morning peak and 1,076 trips in the evening peak.
Did your analysis recommend any transportation improvements to mitigate the anticipated traffic from the Wendell Exchange development?
Yes, these trips will be mitigated with the construction of new transportation infrastructure, including signals at both Keiths Road, US 64 Business, and Three Sisters intersection at US 64 Business, turn lanes on Three Sisters, US 64 Business and at the site driveways, frontage improvements along Keiths Road.
Will the project be providing any other transportation-related improvements other than those recommended by the TIA?
Yes, the project is also providing a transit easement in Zone 1 in a location agreed to by the developer and town, and will pay a fee in lieu for the construction of a transit stop.
Can you describe the proposed internal street network and frontage improvements?
Yes, the frontage improvements on Keiths Road will be in substantial compliance with the town's arterial and collector street plan as required by the UDO section 2.19 C311, which requires that the PUD document will be consistent with the town of Wendell transportation plan. Keiths Road will be widened to a 3-lane undivided roadway as shown in the arterials and collectors map. There's also a future minor collector through the site, which will be provided between zones 1 and 2, and a future extension of the Glennon Town Boulevard. There will be a new north-south public street through Zone 1 to connect this road to US 64 Business. Three Sisters Road is also proposed to be realigned for safer movement. We are working with the NCDOT on that. There will also be a private 2-lane road provided through the northern portion of the site in Zone 3 for a future connection. Accordingly, it is my professional opinion that the proposed development will not adversely affect the safety of residents from a transportation perspective, and the proposed use will not constitute a nuisance based on vehicular movement. The proposed road network will allow the safe and efficient flow of emergency services to and from the site.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any questions for this witness?
I have one question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since you've had extensive conversations with, I feel like I'm Dr. Lutz right now. Since you've had extensive conversations with NCDOT, walk me through this in layman's terms. Once a signal is warranted and you're going to pay for it, are we still at the whim of DOT when they approve it and authorize you to build it?
Yeah, so NCDOT required the signal when it does meet warrants. They anticipate the developer to fund that improvement. What they don't want to do is put the signal up there too early before that traffic is being generated. So that is a conversation that happens between the town, the applicant, and NCDOT. NCDOT will typically start the process for a signal design early on because it's a fairly long, drawn-out process. So that process will probably get started right away. And there's a fee that the developer has to pay for the DOT to actually review the signal. So that process really gets underway. But when the warrants are met, then they'll signalize it, both intersections.
But we're still waiting on them to do so, correct, at that point?
Do you have to show them the data that proves that the signal is warranted, that there's a sustained amount of traffic throughout the day?
Yes, those are the MUTCD warrants that we'll need to test and show them.
Let me ask this question to staff, and I'll tell you where I'm going with it. In front of Wendy's, so that signal that has been approved for a period of time, are we always at the behest, or I guess the timeline of NCDOT, no matter when it's ready to go or when it's warranted? We still have to wait till they're ready?
I'd like to swear myself in if I'm.
Sorry.
So I duly acknowledge the.
So I'll just say, because I'm sworn in, so I can testify. Anytime a warrant analysis is done, it does have to get approved by DOT. You then need to go through an encroachment process to build any infrastructure in their right-of-way. And you also have to order the equipment. There is not a warehouse just with traffic signals waiting to be installed. They can take anywhere from 6 months to 12 months to order. So like, you could get approval today. It doesn't mean the light's going in tomorrow. It could take a while before the light is ready to be in. There's also DOT review times. So you're not submitting paperwork and getting approval from DOT in 48 hours for a traffic signal on a major road. So there's time involved in that process.
Thank you.
Since that one and also like our LAP project aren't germane to the quasi-judicial, you have to get it's not a town road, so you have to get approval from DOT to put something in there right away. They are the approval jurisdiction of what happens there. And so you go through their process, and that can take time. And then the lead time then to get to the equipment, you also have to take into consideration. The developer also is not going to willingly subject themselves to that expense and time until they have an approval. So that all starts after consideration by the board.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for this witness?
Okay, thank you.
All right, and I will call our last witness, Mr. Hunter Howell. Hunter, please state your name and address for the board.
Yes, my name is Hunter Howell. My office address is 412 East Chatham Street, Cary, North Carolina, 27511. And I am a professional real estate appraiser, and I work with Paramount Commercial Appraisers.
Can you please briefly describe your background and experience?
I'm currently licensed by North Carolina as a state certified general appraiser. I'm a member of the Appraisal Institute, and I'm working towards a MAI designation, and I've been appraising properties throughout Wake County for over 11 years now.
And please explain for the board your role in this project.
Yes. I was engaged by the applicant to examine this development's impact on the site and the surrounding areas.
At this point, I'd like to tender Mr. Howell as an expert in the field of property appraisal and impacts of new development.
Yes.
Okay. Could you please explain to the board how you evaluated these factors?
Yes, I reviewed the master plan, the character of the surrounding area, and how this type of development typically impacts surrounding property. The site is mostly undeveloped land with a couple single-family detached dwellings, and is located adjacent to a major thoroughfare, US 64 business, and approximately 1 mile from Interstate 87. The property to the south along US 64 business is a commercial tractor equipment shop, and across US 64 business is the Raleigh East Airport. The other properties that surround the site are vacant with single-family homes situated further beyond. The property is approximately 1 mile from the Wendell Commerce Center industrial mixed-use development and the new Wake Tech East Campus. The commercial uses have been purposely located on this site along the property's road frontage on US 64 business, while the industrial uses are located at the rear of the site. The master plan and PUD text propose adequate buffers and transitions to ensure the uses operate in a cohesive manner. In general, high-density industrial and commercial development is compatible with the surrounding commercial and residential uses. This helps concentrate land use reduce sprawl, and promote a more efficient pattern of land uses and public utilities and services. For further support, I performed a match pair analysis on nearby examples of industrial developments located next to residential development to study the impacts to residential property values, and I found no measurable difference in values to properties that were located next to the industrial development compared to the properties that were not adjacent but in the same neighborhood. Therefore, it is my professional opinion that the proposed project adequately protects other property from potential adverse effects of the proposed development. Similarly, it is my professional opinion that the proposed use or development of the land will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting properties.
And did you prepare a report that summarizes your findings related to impacts to adjacent properties, and did you testify from the research you did in that report?
Yes, I did.
Does the board have any questions for this witness?
No.
Okay. At this time, I'll ask that the presentation, staff report, agenda, and all attachments, and the video and audio recordings of the meeting be admitted into the record. And I will summarize, these two slides summarize the evidence and how it relates to the approval criteria in UDO section 15.15B2. There's 11 criteria. I'm not going to go through each one of them if that's okay, but there's a summary up on the screen for each criteria and how we have provided competent material and substantial evidence of each of the required 11 findings. And we respectfully ask that you approve the Wendell Exchange special use permit at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak? And, well, they weren't sworn in, so I guess there's not anyone, is there? Okay. Are there any additional questions from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move we grant the special use permit for Wendell Exchange Plan Unit Development.
So we have a motion to grant the special use permit to create the Wendell Exchange Planned Unit Development. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all. All right, we're going to move into our administrative items. Item 6A is to award an on-call owner's project management services for capital projects, and we're going to hear from our new Assistant Town Manager, Jeffrey Brown.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight we have before you an item for owners project management. It was an RFQ that the town staff had issued, and we were looking for somebody to come in and represent the owner for capital projects. We had 10 submissions from the RFQ that was submitted. We went through and ranked the top 3 firms. The firms that are listed are MBP Carolinas Incorporated, Cumming Management Group, as well as Skanska USA, all local to Raleigh and Durham area. So before you tonight, we're asking that the board accept these as put forth as firms that we will execute a master service agreement with and allow the town manager to negotiate and sign contracts for services that are needed once we identify those for capital projects. And answer any questions at this time.
All right, any questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I move we accept the recommended scoring qualifications and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign contracts for on-call project management services for capital projects.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to accept the recommended scoring and qualifications of firms and to authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign contracts for on-call owners project management services for capital projects. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Thank you.
And item 6B is a resolution to establish the America 250 Wendell Committee. Mr. Collins.
Our country's turning 250 years old since the signing of the Declaration of Independence next year. And the town, in conversation with Can we make sure that gets shut? The town following suit with the state and Wake County in adopting a resolution recognizing and improving the Town of Wendell America 250 committee. This will be a committee that works for planning for next year's 250th celebration, as well as assist with marketing and promoting others' efforts in that space. We have so the resolution kind of follows that same layout of the state and county for that. In addition, our concept plan is to have a committee. The magic number there is the number of chairs in the board conference room next door. Town manager and mayor, Jen and I have been talking through this, as well as one other of the board members. So that'd be 3 Chamber of Commerce members, Wendell Historic Society members, and then three other citizens. Our initial concept is American Legion and 2 civic organizations, the Lions Club and Rotary Club, that have a history of working in the community for civic good. Doesn't mean other people can't be involved or contribute, but this would just be the body that puts together the ideas and then reports back out to the community. So with that, glad to take any correction, direction, amendment, approval of resolution, however the board would like.
Right.
And Mayor, if you'd like to add anything, because I know that's just been us conversing
Yes.
in a room right
We're very excited. That's what I'll add. It's exciting times, very exciting. So I don't know, do we want to make a selection tonight of the other board member or with the change? And I don't know what would be appropriate.
Ideally, we'd like to have an initial meeting in the next couple of weeks with the committee, so I'd be sending out an email to these organizations asking for their representatives. If someone has an interest and the board wants to do that tonight, that would be helpful. There is another meeting in 2 weeks.
Are you interested in that? You know you are.
Mayor, can I ask one question?
Let's say.
The only question I had was, and I like the list preliminarily, but obviously meet on Main, but I know the mayor's going to be there, so you've got a couple hats on. Council of Churches,
Separation of church and state's kind of similar to our creation of our country.
all right, so noted.
Just saying.
I was going to, Commissioner Eatman seems like an obvious
Yeah.
pick on this one, having hailed from Halifax, and he's got a whole list of qualifications. But Commissioner Lutz and I aren't going to do it, so you all need to sort that out.
It is, my only hesitation is not hesitation, I think it's fine. So one, I could talk about how excited I am about this until the 250th got here, so I won't try to do that. So thanks for bringing it to us. Day job, I have sort of an administrative role over the state commemoration. This is just advisory though, right? Is there any authority vested in this board in this way that we're setting it up?
It's set up to advise
The town board.
Okay.
the
so-
town
Yeah,
board.
I'm
or
happy to do it.
for the chamber to take ideas back to their board. So it's the conversation group within the community that can bring it back. But any funding or decision point would still rest with this board for anything that the town would be doing.
Are you nominating Dean?
Second, Commissioner Eatman.
I knew we adopt the resolution.
Okay. So we have a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right. We'll move quickly into our other business. Update on town board committees. Wendell Fire Department, Commissioner Joyner.
You know, Mayor, the Fire Department Board met last Tuesday, which is a relatively notable day in Wendell, November 4th. I was unable to attend. There's a conversation regarding extending shifts to 48-hour shifts from 24-hour shifts, which is a conversation in the fire service that is happening right now. I will report back to you next month on what that conversation yielded.
Right. Stay within our commissioners' comments and
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am going to pre-warn everybody that at the next meeting, and even if we're later, that I'll have faults, because I've tried to have faults a couple different times over the past 6 months. And what's become abundantly apparent to me is that the people in this room and the people that show up in this room occasionally mean a whole lot to me. And this is, I'll have thoughts on that next month. I want to say tonight, though, and I said it earlier, hard conversations are that. They're hard. They're called hard for a reason. And when I look back over tonight and over the last 10 years, when people are willing to have a hard conversation that puts them in a place or in a position that they feel uncomfortable with, 9 times out of 10, growth happens. But folks being committed to having hard conversations is good. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that the way we talk to each other matters. Tone matters. When you walk into a room and you're attempting to persuade people around you, I have always just assumed that tone mattered. Societally and socially and social media all seems to make us believe now that the tone has changed and that should be okay or it should be a good thing. I haven't always done a great job at moderating my tone, and I haven't done a great job at calling out tone more broadly. But I can tell you that it matters. The way we talk to each other matters, and the way we approach each other matters. And I am very proud of the way broadly our community engages with each other and talks to each other. But it matters, and I think sometimes we just need to be reminded of that. And thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz. Hope you feel better soon. Commissioner Eatman.
Just quickly, I think there's no better segue than talking about America's 250th and the founding of our country, to talking about civility and engaging with our neighbors and sort of the exercise of government, to then also acknowledging that tomorrow's Veterans Day. And none of those three things could happen without the other, and I think it's just a really great intersection of what makes our country the only one I can imagine being thankful to have been born into. And anyway, I can wax sentimental on that, and that's something I'll have thoughts on as we moved into the 250th into 2026. I'll save some of that till then, but thank a veteran tomorrow.
Commissioner Honeycutt.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you.
Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few things. I know we're late, but we talked about 250th birthday, so happy birthday to the Marine Corps today. I have quite a few Marines that I send texts to today wishing them a happy birthday, and I get cool texts back. So I think one of them said, "I don't feel a day over 249." So that was cool. So Semper Fi to those men and women. Obviously tomorrow's Veterans Day, so thank you for your service and your sacrifice, and for those that have served and continue to do so. We did cut a couple ribbons in downtown this past week, so I do want to thank El Salsas and Bella Butcher. They've invested in our downtown, and both of those spaces have had incredible makeovers. So I will tell you, going in both of those places and probably spending way too much money over the past couple of weeks, folks are just, they're energetic and they're happy, and they're excited to be a part of our community. So I do want to thank them, and I will tell you that the shrimp El Salsa bowl is top notch. Get the queso on the side. You'll thank me later. And then I did a little market research today. I stopped by the Wawa. I let Mr. Coates know that. So excited for the possibility of Wawa in Wendell. So I do want to mention that tonight we did quite a few annexation and rezoning items. We talked about residential items. We talked about commercial. We talked about industrial, parks and rec. So we really, had the full spread tonight of all the things, and it's really cool to see. So lots of important items on tonight's agenda. And it was refreshing to hear support. So thank you to Ms. Battle and Mr. Knott for being here tonight. They actually stayed until close to the end. We'll give them credit for being here till the end, because they were here for an item that was towards the end, and they did hang around. So, and that will do it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's late, but I want to take a moment to talk about public comment. Public comment in municipal government and town board meetings is not meant to be a back and forth. And I know sometimes it seems clumsy because someone comes up and they stand at the podium, they ask a lot of questions, and they're looking right at us and right at me, and they're wanting an answer, and we're really not supposed to have a back and forth. And that's according to our adopted rules of procedure. I will say that I usually make notes typically during those public comments and when questions come about, so that I can provide some assistance or have town staff provide some assistance to those folks if it's something that they can be assisted with, so that we can follow up. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands so that they're not disappointed or confused when they have questions. It's also not a place for negotiations from the dais with people in the audience as well. So we need to avoid that moving forward. That's not appropriate, and actually it's out of order. So we need to not let that happen as well. I also wanted to express our thanks to our veterans for their service and wish them a happy Veterans Day tomorrow. I hope that each of them feels celebrated and are able to feel our gratitude for all that they've done for us. Quick reminder, town offices will be closed tomorrow in recognition of that, and we'll reopen at regular hours on Wednesday. So if you need us, you can call on Wednesday. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.